Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Grindelwald and Harry Potter. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Mach9330 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The Fourth Shinobi World War had finally reached its peak. Obito had been died after he had been forced to bring back Madara the Rinna Tensei, but thanks to Obito's change of heart, after Naruto made him realize how wrong he had been, had at least destroyed Madara's other Rinnegan and destroyed Black Zetsu. While the other eight-tailed beasts kept Madara busy, Naruto had taken the opportunity to blow up the empty Ghetto statue with a Raisin Shuriken/tailed beast bomb combo. Without the Ghetto statue, Madara had no hope of becoming the 10 tails Jinchuriki, and thus, he had failed. Madara, with only one eye and a fading control over Hashirama's Sage Mode, was currently being thrashed by a barrage of attacks from by a 9-tails Sage Mode Naruto. Come on, Madara! What's wrong? Aren't you supposed to be the Tree Grandpa's equal? Naruto taunted Madara as he punched his face. Tree Grandpa, of course, refers to Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage who was made famous for his unique wood-style ninjutsu. You think that you can just steal nature chakra? Fool! It takes training to use nature chakra. Even Tree Grandpa needed to train in order to use it. Naruto shouted as he kneed Madara in the stomach. You tried to take away everyone's free will. Why? Because you were dealt a bad hand, so you think that you should put the whole world in an illusion? Naruto shouted as he buried his fist in Madara's gut, causing the man to keel over, blood and saliva flying from his mouth. Fool! Living is not for the weak. And real peace for the world can only be attained when everyone wants it. Even if you had succeeded in casting the infant Tsukiyomi, it's still a jutsu. Eventually, the illusion would have ended and we would be right back to square one. Naruto knocked Madara over and stepped on his chest. You will never win against me, Madara. Do you know why that is? It's because your cause is worthless. Your cause is not worth fighting for, and that is why you will always lose to me or Tree Grandpa. Naruto stated as he reached down, placing his hand on Madara's chest and with a blast of 9 tails chakra, killed all of Hashirama's cells inside of Madara's body, which caused the face of Hashirama that was on Madara's chest to fall out, leaving a bloody pit in Madara's chest. Once Naruto did that, Madara lost the medium through which he could safely manipulate nature chakra. The chakra began to turn him into a tree before he forcibly expelled it from his body, but Naruto severed the arm of Madara's that was turned into a tree and knocked Madara back to the ground. How could I, Madara, the greatest Uchiha to ever walk the earth, fail? The revived Uchiha thought. He was angry at so many people right now, he didn't even know what to do. That idiot Obito had started to awaken the 10 tails before he had collected all of the tailed beasts. Which was why he was in this mess anyways. Hashirama hadn't been any help seeing as he had been trying to stop him with his legendary wood-style bloodline limit. The last Uzumaki was royally pissing him off because no matter what he did, Madara could not gain the upper hand. The Kyuubi had always been his personal plaything, though now it looked like karma had finally come back to bite him in the ass. The blonde Uzumaki had not only destroyed the Ghetto statue, which meant no becoming a Jinchuriki of the 10 tails for Madara, but Naruto had been thoroughly thrashing Madara around like a ragdoll, and now that he had destroyed Hashirama's cells, Madara lost access to wood style and his ability to use Sage Mode. Oh no, Madara thought as his only remaining Rinnegan vanished, leaving only his eternal Manjikyu. No, what have you done to my Rinnegan? Idiot, the only reason you could use the Rinnegan was because you stole DNA from Tree Grandpa. Without that, your Sharingan is back to its true state. Speaking of which, Naruto said as he used Flying Thunder God to teleport to Madara, and without warning, ripped out the Madara's remaining eye and crushed it. Madara screamed in pain as he lost his last eye, before Naruto compounded on that pain by breaking Madara's spine, paralyzing him from the waist down. It's time, Naruto said to himself as he opened up the seal on his stomach and released Kurama from him. Naruto had refused both halves of Kurama earlier by taking it out of his father, and recombined both. Naruto collapsed as his life was slowly fading from him. You shouldn't be dragged into hell with me. This is goodbye, old friend. Naruto! Behind you! Kurama shouted at Naruto. He turned to be stabbed in the stomach by Sasuke. Well, Dobe, thanks for making this easy for me. Now I can kill all the Kage and the tailed beasts and begin my revolution. Sasuke gloated, but that all stopped when he was pierced through the stomach by Kurama's claw. Idiot Uchiha. We knew you would try something like this. So glad that you proved me right. Your clan is a disease. Kurama noted as a quick burst of high-quality tailed beast chakra destroyed Sasuke's entire chakra network, causing him to cry out in pain. Naruto, you need to hurry while you still have time. I know, Naruto panted as he picked himself up and flashed through hand signs. Reaper Death Seal, Naruto said as the god of death appeared behind. Why have you summoned me, child of prophecy? The Shinigami asked. Lord Shinigami, I need you seal away Madara Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha. These monsters attempted to destroy the world, and they must not be allowed to come back. Naruto pleaded. Very well then, the Shinigami said as he reached through Naruto and ripped both souls of the Uchiha souls out of their bodies. At least, the world is safe now. Naruto huffed, as his life neared its end as his back hit the dirt. Do not be afraid, child of prophecy, for you have saved the world. You have the gift I shall now grant you, hero. Rejoice, for you have earned it, the Shinigami said as Naruto Uzumaki's eyes closed for the final time, while his soul was sent to a new world, to hopefully live a better life than the one he had lived here in the elemental nations. Harry Potter. Godric's Hollow. 1981. James Potter relaxed in his armchair. Lily relaxed in the sofa and both watched as their 2-year-old baby Harry sitting up on his toy broomstick his godfather Sirius gave him and moved around the room. They watched as their other son, Nathaniel, crawled around and explored his surroundings, chasing their family cat. Harry and Nathaniel were twins, though Naruto was born a few minutes before Harry. Harry's going to be a great Quidditch player one day, I just know it, James said. Just make sure he doesn't hurt himself, Lily said as she stood up to follow Nathaniel and their cat. Last time he rode that he destroyed my sister's ugly vase. James just laughed more. Don't worry, Lily, he'll be fine. He stood up and pocketed his wand. They have been at Godric's Hollow for almost 6 days by now. With Voldemort hunting them, the Potters needed a place to hide. Dumbledore had found the small house for them and placed the Fidelius charm that protected the house. Lily and James wanted at first to make their best friend Sirius Black their secret keeper, but Sirius told James that the move would be too obvious, so James and Lily chose their friend Peter Pettigrew instead. Lily nodded and rested her head on his shoulders. I just want them to live full lives and be happy. Do you think Dumbledore will defeat him? Who? You know. Him, Lily said, referring to Voldemort since the taboo was in effect and saying his name would draw the Death Eaters to them. Of course he will, Lily. We have nothing to worry about, James said. Lily chuckled and shook her head. Guess you're right. There was a loud shrieking cat sound and Lily's head immediately snapped towards Nathaniel, who pulled at the cat's tail. Nathan! She said, rushing towards their baby and picking him up. That's the second time, Nate, she scolded him. The black-haired, green-eyed baby just looked up at her with those oddly intelligent eyes he had always had. Lily sighed and shook her head. You make me worry too much, you know that? Nathaniel just smiled up at his mother before babbling again. Lily and James both laughed. We should bring you to bed soon, mister, she said as she started towards the stairs. All right, I'll watch Harry down here, James said. He took out his wand and started to twirl it. He sat down back in his armchair and watched his other son while he waited for his wife. He barely sat down when there was a deafening blasting sound, like a cannon going off, and the front door was destroyed. Lily! James yelled, jumping to his feet and running towards the front door, standing protectively in front of Harry with his wand out. There stood a hooded man in the doorway. In the hooded man's hand was a wand as he stood calmly there. Lily! It's him! Grab our children and run! James asked. Avada Kedavra! The Dark Lord said, his wand pointed at James Potter. James was hit by the killing curse, his body landing limp on the ground, his head hitting a nearby table as he fell dead. Lord Voldemort slowly approached the young, crying Harry as he tried to crawl over to his dad. Tut tut tut, such a shame you have to die so young. But you or your brother could one day grow to be my rival and I will not suffer any potential rivals. Voldemort pointed his wand at Harry and cast the killing curse on the poor child, killing the young baby as he fell limp on the floor. Voldemort moved towards the stairs and climbed them. He could hear the other boy, who was crying behind a locked door, and the hushed whisperings of the woman trying to comfort him. He stood in front of the door and pointed his wand at it. The door blasted off its handles and Lily screamed. She stood in front of the boy, sitting in his crib. Move aside, girl, Lord Voldemort said. Never, the mother said. The only way you can get to him is by stepping over my corpse. Move aside, you silly girl, you don't need to die like your husband and other child, Voldemort said. You will not take my last boy from me. Stupid girl. Voldemort sneered. He pointed his wand at Lily and said, Avada Kedavra. Nathan! The girl yelled as she died, her body falling in front of the crib, Voldemort's wand following. Satisfied that he can now destroy the only thing left that was capable of killing him, Voldemort silently stepped towards the babe, taking great pleasure with every step he took. The babe was no longer crying or screaming, instead he just stared up at Voldemort with what looked like hate as the Dark Lord pointed his wand at him. Avada Kedavra! He yelled. The killing curse barely erupted from his wand when something amazing happened. Instead of killing the child, the curse seemed to reflect from the baby and hit the caster instead. The spell caused the room to be destroyed as the Dark Lord's physical body, seemingly killing him. Later that evening. 4 Privet Drive. It was the dead of night when an old man with a magnificent beard walked down the middle of the street. He pulled out some sort of odd, cylindrical device when he saw no one was around, and one by one the lights went out, darkening the street. Once the old man was done, he capped the device and looked at the cat that approached him. I should have known that you would be here, Professor McGonagall, the old man said. That same cat's form shifted and twisted until in its place stood Professor McGonagall. Good evening, Professor Dumbledore, she greeted. They walked together down the street and she asked, Albus, are the rumors true? McGonagall was of course referring to the deaths of most of the Potter family, and Voldemort's own death. I am afraid so, Professor McGonagall. The good and the bad, he said, confirming what everyone was saying. And the child? She asked. Hagrid is bringing him, Dumbledore said, making Minerva feel a bit uneasy. Do you think it wise to trust Hagrid with such a responsibility? Minerva asked. She liked Hagrid well enough, but wasn't sure he was delicate enough to handle safely delivery a child. Oh Minerva, I would trust Hagrid with my life, Albus said as he and Minerva turned when they heard the sound of Hagrid's flying motorcycle. The vehicle stopped right in front of them as the giant of a man took off his goggles. Professor Dumbledore, sir. Professor McGonagall, he greeted as he got off his motorcycle. No problems, I trust, Hagrid? Albus asked for confirmation. No, sir, little fella fell asleep as we flew over Bristol, Hagrid said as he carefully handed Nathaniel over to Albus. Albus and Minerva walked up to the Dursleys' house when Minerva spoke in concern. Albus, are you really sure we should be leaving him here? I watched these people all day, they are the worst kind of muggle. They really are. The only family he has left, Albus pointed out. This boy will be famous. There won't be a single soul in our world that doesn't know his name, Minerva said. It will be all right, Minerva. This is the only way to ensure he grows up without the corruptions of fame and fortune. Trust me, he is far better growing up away from all of that until he is ready, Albus said. He had seen all too often what happens when young men have all the fame and gold in the world and no one to help raise them. The old man had good intentions, even if they were somewhat misguided. But will he be safe? Will he be cared for? Minerva asked, as that was more important than the fame, to her at least. I am sure he will. Lily Evans was one of the kindest individuals I have ever met in my long life. I cannot imagine anyone sharing her blood and upbringing could be anything less than a remarkable person as well. There will be wards placed around this home to protect him. He will be safe, Minerva. They heard sniffling behind them, and they saw that Hagrid was crying a bit. There, Hagrid. It's not really goodbye, after all. Albus consoled him a bit. The woman let out a reluctant sigh. Albus was right, had to be right. The boy would be loved here, and for the right reasons rather than just for the wealth of the family he came from or the mark on his forehead. All right, Albus, let's just get this over with. The old man nodded, before putting a warming charm on the child's blanket so he would not die from the cold. Placing the child on the doorstep of 4 Privet Drive, he placed a letter addressed to the Dursleys and took one last look at the child. Good luck, Nathaniel Potter. A swift knock later and the three vanished when the door began to open, allowing those currently residing in the residence to take up the responsibility of raising the child. If only that were true. 1991. 4 Privet Drive. Oh, this ain't good, Hagrid muttered nervously as he departed from the doorstep of 4 Privet Drive. Nathaniel Potter wasn't there. He wasn't living where Professors McGonagall and Dumbledore dropped him off. In fact, according to Dursley, he hadn't lived there ever. They had apparently dropped the newborn off at an orphanage in the middle of London the next day. They refused to deal with someone else's problem, especially one that was left on their doorstep with only a note and a half-assed explanation. Hagrid could walk through a small neighborhood and go to one small house where the occupants knew about magic without causing a ruckus. What he could not do was show up at a Muggle orphanage in the middle of London. Even if that same orphanage was only a 2-mile walk from where the wizards typically sneak into Diagon Alley. No, I'm good. Dumbledore is gonna have words with me, though the large man promptly used his temporary portkey to return to Hogwarts. The gentle giant needed help on this one. 1 hour later. I'm sorry, Hagrid, but I simply don't have time. You know that I have other students to visit as well. I know, but I am begging you, Professor, please. The dark-skinned woman gave a sigh. She knew that she would cave eventually and help the man, but right before the start of the year was always a bit stressful. I can help you out. How about I take some of your duties? I can get your classroom ready and your supplies. Please, Professor Sinistra, FYI, Aurora Sinistra is played by Zoe Kravitz with her long black hair styled in dreads. Fine. If you could purchase the items on my list for me, I should have enough time to go see whoever this boy is. Hagrid nodded cheerfully, before taking the list and walking away. Hagrid? Aurora said to him. Yes? He said as he turned around. The boy? Aurora asked expectantly as his eyes lit up. Oh, you're right, you are. Tracked him down to an orphanage in London. I got the address here somewhere. The man patted himself down for a second, before pulling out a crumpled piece of paper and handing it to the woman. Sorry, he apologized. It is quite all right, Hagrid, she said as she uncrumpled the paper and read the address. The man nodded and once again turned to leave. Hagrid. Aurora sighed. Yes'm? He asked. His name? She asked. Oh, right, it's Nathaniel, Professor. Nathaniel Potter, Hagrid said, like that was something you just blurted out. The woman practically fainted. Orphanage. That night, a 12-year-old black-haired young boy could be seen in his room, meditating with his eyes closed as he sat cross-legged with his hands resting on his knees. Coming to this world had been an experience, to say the least. Being fully conscious while inside his mother's womb and growing next to his little twin brother was odd, but he had made the most of it and tried to enjoy life until it was ripped asunder by that damn Voldemort. The reason Nathaniel Potter was meditating was because of his conflicting memories. One set was his own. Another was from his old life as a shinobi. That's right, Nathaniel Potter was Naruto Uzumaki. He decided that he would keep his new name, since Naruto was dead and should be allowed to rest in peace. Anyway, Naruto often meditated at first due to those two sets of memories and a large assortment of memories that were not Naruto's or Nathaniel. They were Voldemort's. With 3 sets of conflicting memories, most people would be driven insane, but through meditation, Naruto was able to compartmentalize and keep Voldemort's memories and his memories as Naruto separate from one another. Thanks to this, he had learned quite a bit of what Voldemort learned in his 7 years at Hogwarts, but he could only use legilimency and occlumency right now, since those did not necessarily require a wand and he couldn't be caught doing accidental magic. He could read minds with no shields fairly well. He devoted most of his time to occlumency, and now his shields could block out any and all passive attempts on his mind, and could block adepts using legilimency's full power, but he was a long way from blocking out an active attempt from Snape, Dumbledore, or Voldemort. By active attempt or full power, I mean doing as Snape does in UTP, pointing his wand at Harry and shouting the spell's incantation. Nathan opened his vibrant, killer-cursed green eyes and stared out his big window to gaze at the stars. He was expecting a Hogwarts representative to come to him soon, since they dared not send an owl with a message into the city. That was just begging for trouble. And soon, Nathan would begin his journey to getting his revenge against Voldemort for taking the peaceful life he had earned as Naruto from him. Next day. The orphanage was about average. Not beaten down and falling down, but not opulent or grandiose either. It was one of the average ones. The dark-skinned woman that was Professor Sinistra straightened her back to look as professional as possible before making her way inside. Name? Sinistra blinked at the middle-aged woman sitting behind the glassed-off welcome desk. Aurora Sinistra, I am here to see a Mr. Nathaniel Potter, Aurora said. Signed below, we are not responsible for anything that might go missing or any injuries you may sustain on property. The witch glanced up for a moment at the woman, before finishing her signature with a nod. I will be all right. Is there anything you can tell me about him? He is very polite. I have never heard him yell since he came here. He's very helpful, always helping the staff around here. There are, admittedly, strange things that happen around him and he's a bit of a loner. He is oddly mature, as in he's too mature to be 12 years old. And when he talks, people listen. As if he could mesmerize a crowd with his voice. The teacher blinked twice, before making her way in the designated direction. Aurora walked up a series of well-kept steps. Let's see, last room on the left. Ah, there it is. Aurora heard someone say enter from the other side. Aurora opened the door and focused her attention on the room. It was a particularly Spartan room, having only a bed that was neatly folded, a closet and dresser. only having the absolute necessities. Sitting on the large windowsill, with one leg propped upon on the windowsill while the other rested comfortably on the floor, was a boy with spiky black hair reading the book in his right hand intently with his right arm resting on his propped-up knee. "Mr. Potter?" The book was lowered, and the woman fought the urge to gasp at the bright green eyes that she thought looked like the color of the Avada Kedavra spell that gazed back at her. "Yes?" he asked. His voice was so smooth, charming, and mature that it startled the woman. She gathered her thoughts and continued. "My name is Aurora Sinistra and I am a teacher at Hogwarts. Due to your age I am here to inform you of your admission to our school." The boy cocked his head to the side, and had he been 3 years older, the teacher's heart might have fluttered. "I don't remember applying to your school, ma'am," he mentioned. "Oh, well, that is because you were chosen at birth. Your parents." The woman caught sight of the infamous lightning bolt scar on his forehead, and began to stare at it as if lost in thought, therefore she missed the boy's eyes very mild annoyance. "You mentioned my parents?" he said politely, bringing her drifting attention back to the matter at hand. "Oh, yes, of course. Your parents paid to ensure your admittance when you were born." "What were they like? Did you know them? Are they still alive?" Aurora hadn't expected the question but should have. What orphan doesn't want to know about those who were no longer with them? Then again, Hagrid was supposed to be doing this. Nathan, on the other hand, had to play it this way. It wouldn't do for people to think he didn't care about his family, or that he didn't want to know what happened to them. It might raise questions about his mental health, and he did not want someone snooping in his head and finding Voldemort's memories. That was one benefit to Occlumency, and having gotten very good at it, he could essentially block out any passive scans. The only way someone like Snape or Dumbledore could get his mind was to use the full power of the Legilimency spell, and that was illegal to use on a student without their permission. "They were very noble. I never knew them, unfortunately. They passed away close to a decade ago," she said. "Oh, so what kind of school is this?" he asked. The woman's smile brightened. This was always her favorite part. "Tell me, Nathaniel, have you ever noticed anything unusual happen around you? Maybe something that you can't explain?" Chapter end. Nathan looked over the acceptance letter that he had gotten from Aurora Sinistra. She unfortunately could not be here with him to get his stuff, due to the fact she had other students to meet and greet. She instead showed him Diagon Alley and showed him how to find Platform 9 March 4th, so that way Nathan would know where to go and how to get to the platform. When Nathan asked how none of the Muggles, he thought that term was pretty racist, noticed them, Aurora explained that the entrances to Platform 9 3/4 were protected by powerful Muggle-repelling and notice-me-not charms that were reinforced on a regular basis, which is why no Muggle ever discovered the platform before. She also went on to explain why Nathan was so famous, so he wasn't totally taken by surprise when people started acting weird around him in the leaky cauldron. He read the acceptance letter. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF Warlock. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins September 1st. Albus Dumbledore. Headmaster. First-year students will require 3 sets of plain work robes, black. 1 plain pointed hat, black, for day wear. 1 pair of protective gloves, dragon hide or similar. 1 winter cloak, black with silver fastenings. Please note that all pupils' clothes should carry name tags. Course books. All students should have a copy of each of the following: The Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1, by Miranda Goshawk. A History of Magic by Bahilda Bagshot. Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling. A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emmerich Switch. 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Phillida Spore. Magical Drafts and Potions by Arsenius Jigger. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. The Dark Forces, A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble. Other equipment: 1 wand. 1 cauldron, pewter, standard size 2. 1 set glass or crystal phials. 1 telescope. 1 set brass scales. Students may also bring, if they desire, an animal of their choosing. Parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomstick. Yours sincerely, Albus Dumbledore. He walked beside Hagrid, who Aurora had handed him off to, as he was the one who was supposed to get him from the orphanage but couldn't exactly walk through London unnoticed. He told Aurora that he had put her supplies in her classroom, which she was thankful for. So, Hagrid, Nathan said, and the giant looked down to his charge as he walked. Where am I gonna get money to pay for my supplies? I don't exactly get paid a big allowance. Nathan, of course, was acting again. Riddle's memories told him where orphans get the money for school supplies. The thing about Riddle's memories is that they were scattered. While the memories about classes, spells, magical beasts, teachers, minions, etc. was available to view, with the exception of this one set of memories that starts with Riddle talking to his potions professor about something after a meeting, a lot of the stuff 20 years before his birth he couldn't see either, and it frustrated him to no end. Hagrid chuckled. Well, there's your money, at Gringotts. The Wizard Bank ain't no safer place, not one, well, except for Hogwarts, he said, pointing at the bank. Gringotts Wizarding Bank. Hagrid, Nathan asked, keeping up his ruse since it would be extremely weird if he suddenly knew about goblins. What are they, exactly? They're goblins, clever as they come. They aren't exactly the most friendly of beasts, best stay close, he warned, as they walked up to a goblin writing in a record book with a feather. Ahem, Hagrid said, getting the goblin's attention. Mr. Nathaniel Potter wishes to make a withdrawal, he said. The goblin looked over his podium. And does Mr. Nathaniel Potter have his key? He asked. Oh, wait a minute, I got it here, Hagrid explained as he searched his pockets, bringing out a key and a letter. There's the little devil, and this one, he motioned, in a red stamp said top secret. It's about you know what and vault you know which, he said. Goblin, wide-eyed, realizing what it was, said very well. Nathan, on the other hand, from Riddle's own memories, thought it odd that Hagrid had the key to what might be his trust vault set up by his parents, or his family vault. He'd be asking for that key when he was done, since it technically belonged to him. Gringotts Vaults. The two, along with an employee grip hook, rode the cart into the vaults. The first one was at Nathan's vault. Didn't think your mom and dad would leave you with nothing now, did you? Hagrid said when he saw Nathan's shocked expression. Nathan gathered up what he needed, then enough for something extra he was planning to buy. The final vault was a mystery to the young reincarnated wizard. Inside the vault was a single yet small wrapped-up item. Hagrid picked up the item and turned to Nathan as he pocketed it. Best not mention this to anyone. All right, Nate? Hagrid asked. Nathan merely held out his hand expectantly. Hagrid was confused. What is it, Nate? My key, Hagrid, Nathan said expectantly, causing Hagrid's eyes to widen. I can't, Nate, Hagrid stammered, causing Nathan and Griphook to snarl. Griphook rang a nearby bell, causing bells to sound throughout the corridor. A group of armored goblins appeared, marched up from either side of the aisleway. They stopped in front of Hagrid from either side and pointed their spears at the giant. Oh man, Nate. I ain't done anything wrong there, Hagrid said as he raised his hands slowly. You know, Hagrid, I thought it a bit odd that you have the only key to my bank account, and why I never knew I had an account here, Nathan said with a glare. Hagrid looked nonplussed for a moment. Professor Dumbledore gave me your key, 8. Nathan merely shook his head. Why did he have it? Why did I never have it? He turned to look at the griphook and asked, why does a man I've never met have a key to my account? Can you give me a list of all the money going into and out of my account? Please, Mr. Griphook. Now 8, began Hagrid in a shocked tone, Dumbledore would never take anything from your vault. He is a great man, he is. While Hagrid protested to Nathan, Griphook waved his hand over a piece of parchment. Columns began appearing on the parchment. When the writing stopped, the goblin looked it over. There have been no transactions made against your vault since July 1981, he announced. There, you see, 8? Dumbledore just kept your key safe, he did, the huge man said in relief. Hagrid, Nathan said slowly and calmly, I am willing to admit that I grew up outside the wizarding world and don't know everything there is to know. I like you, Hagrid, and I don't want to see you get hurt. Give me the key to my vault here, and we will leave and forget that this whole thing even happened. But I swear if you don't give me my key, I will stand aside and let these honorable goblins do whatever it is that they do to thieves down here. Hagrid did not want to disobey Dumbledore, who he hero worshipped, but he also did not want to be skewered to death. So, after a full minute of deliberating, he handed it to Nathan, who took it and pocketed it away. Stand down and return to your posts, Griphook and the goblins pulled their spears back and marched away. Nathan climbed into the car, followed by Griphook and Hagrid. Diagon Alley. They exited the bank and Nathan stood there in silence, neither one moving. 8. Hagrid tried to say, but Nathan held up his hand. Nathan lowered it and said, "Look, Hagrid, I probably did overreact down there. It's just I've never owned anything in my life. So, finding out somebody was holding on to something that belonged to me my whole life? It may have set me off a bit. Let's just continue onward, alright?" Nathan as he looked at Hagrid, who slowly nodded, as they could talk about it after. "Might as well get your uniform," said Hagrid, nodding toward Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions. "Listen, Nathan, would ya mind if I slipped off fair a pick-me-up in the leaky cauldron? I ate dem Gringotts carts." He did look a bit sick, so Nathan entered Madame Malkin's shop alone. "Hogwarts, dear? Is it your first year?" Madame Malkin asked. "Yes, ma'am. That is correct," Nathan acknowledged politely. "Well then, follow me to the dressing room," she said, leading him towards a small room with a curtain. "Stand straight, arms apart. Let's take your measurements," she said before Nathan on a stool slipped a long robe over his head and began to pin it to the right length. Next to him, a blond boy with a pale, pointed face was standing on a footstool, while a second witch pinned up his long black robes. "Hello," said the boy. "Hogwarts too?" "Yep," said Nathan. "My father's next door buying my books and mother's up the street looking at wands," said the boy. He had a bored, drawling voice. "Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one and I'll smuggle it in somehow." "Have you got your own broom?" the boy went on. "'Fraid not," said Nathan. "Play Quidditch at all?" "No," Nathan said again, knowing what Quidditch was from Voldemort's memories, though he might be interested in playing. "I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house, and I must say, I agree." "Know what house you'll be in yet?" the boy said. "Can't say for sure," said Nathan with a shrug. "Well, no one really knows until they get there, do they? But I know I'll be in Slytherin. All our family have been imagined being in Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you?" the blonde said with an insulting tone. "Maybe, or I'd see if I could get transferred to a different house," said Nathan. He was thinking about the other houses and which one he would want to go to. Slytherin. The house of the cunning and ambitious. On paper, it's the house that one should go to if they wish to be great. The thing is, anybody can have ambition. However, he had asked Hagrid and he confirmed what Voldemort's memories from school showed, that in the last 30 years it has turned into the house of blood supremacy, playground politics, and whoever's daddy has the biggest wallet. Ravenclaw. The house of knowledge, wit, learning and wisdom. A place that should be a haven for the studious. Unfortunately, Voldemort's memoirs show that any in the house are rather close-minded and intolerant. In the past 30 years, Ravenclaw has had the most cases of in-house bullying, and it is always for someone daring to be different, to think outside the box. Those people are bullied even though that is the essence of the house. Hufflepuff. The house of the hard-working and the loyal. Of course, if you ask Voldemort, it's the house of the weaklings, stupid people, and leftovers. As the house of the loyal, they must support their own. Which means whichever sheep bleats the loudest claims the opinion of the rest of the house, and even if some of them feel it may be wrong, they'll go with it just to not stick out. And finally, Gryffindor. The house of the brave and the courageous. Or the house of the reckless, arrogant, and vain if you asked a Slytherin. Honestly, Nathan thought they got the emblem on Gryffindor wrong. Lions are brave and courageous, that's true. But unlike the other three houses, the lion is so much more. The lion is the king of the jungle, and is often used to represent wisdom, power, dignity, and royalty. Lions are also quite cunning when they hunt in the wild. So all in all, one house has such a bad reputation that you would basically be tarnish your reputation as a dark wizard. Another is filled with mostly close-minded bookworms. Another is basically the house of sheep. Only Gryffindor seems to be the only decent house. Not that he believed the stereotypes of the other three houses, but he was not about to ruin his chances in the wizarding world. "Where are your parents?" said the boy, with a slight sneer. "They're dead," said Nathan shortly. "Oh, sorry," said the other, not sounding sorry at all. "But they were our kind, weren't they?" "They were a witch and wizard, if that's what you meant," Nathan said. "I really don't think they should let the other sort in, do you?" The boy sneered, knowing that he was talking about muggleborns. "They're just not the same, they've never been brought up to know our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they get the letter, imagine. I think they should keep it in the old wizarding families. What's your surname, anyway?" But before Nathan could answer, Madame Malkin said, "All done, my dear," and Nathan, not sorry for an excuse to stop talking to the boy, hopped down from the footstool. "Sit tight, I will be right back," she said, heading into the back room. Nathan waited patiently for the woman to return. Minutes later she arrived with 3 pairs of black robes and boots. "Okay then, try one on," she said, handing over a robe, in which Nathan took and walked into the dressing room. Seconds later, Nathan opened the curtain, revealing his worn robe and boots, him still wearing the black shirt he wore before he arrived in London. "It fits perfectly," he said, getting a smile and a small clap from the woman. "All right then, tell me, what's your name?" she asked. "Nathan," he said. The woman pulled out her wand and weaved it. To his surprise, a needle and thread levitated and began to sew his name into the robes. "Let me pack these up for you. Will there be anything else?" she asked as she brought out a bag. "Do you sell winter cloaks as well?" the 10-year-old asked. The woman nodded. "Ah, yes, I will be right back," she said, heading back into the room. Nathan now had the required items, several dress robes, along with a trunk to put it all in. He also got a cart to put his stuff in. Potage's Cauldron Shop. The young wizard entered the shop to get his potion-making stuff. "Hello there, what can I help you with?" the man asked. "Yes, I'm here to purchase a standard-size pewter cauldron," Nathan said. The man nodded. "First your eye, don't worry, I got you covered," he said as he searched the back room before bringing out the cauldron. Nathan left the shop with the item. Later. Flourish and blots. After he got his files, telescopes, and scales, Nathan entered the store. Once again, the store was filled with students wanting to get their supplies, and employees handling their purchases while helping customers. "What can I help you with, young man?" the employee asked Nathan. "Yes, I'd like the following items," he said, showing him the list of books. First your books, follow me," he said. Nathan followed the man to the counter as he pulled out 2 large packages. "We kind of expect what most students are looking for, so we prepare them," he said, adding up the price. "If it would be all right, sir, there are a few extra books I would like to purchase," Nathan said. "Of course, young man," the employee said. Nathan purchased the other 6 editions of Standard Book of Spells, Curses and Counter-Curses, Bewitch Your Friends and Befuddle Your Enemies with the Latest Revenges, Hair Loss, Jelly Legs, Tongue-Tying and much, much more, by Professor Vindictus Viridian and Wands, A Comprehensive Guide to Understanding a Wizard's Most Valuable Tool by Garrick Ollivander. That way, it would not look weird when Nathan started using spells way above his year. Nathan paid the amount and was about to leave when he crashed into someone. "Ow," he said, rubbing his head. Sitting up, he turned to see a downed girl with curly brown hair and casual clothing doing the same. He masked his slight embarrassment a bit and helped her up. "Sorry about that. I wasn't watching where I was going," he said, picking up her books. No, it's my fault. I should have been paying more attention," she said, taking the books from his hand. Nathan looked at her with a smile. "Are you a first year as well?" he asked. The girl nodded. "It's also my first time here, Diagon Alley," she said. The way she spoke made it seem like she was a bit lost. "Well, I can help you if you'd like," he offered. She smiled. "Thanks, I appreciate that," she said, with a pause because she doesn't know his name. The black-haired young man held out his hand. "I'm Nathan," he said. The girl shook it. "Hermione Granger," she said as the two left the shop. "So are you here by yourself?" Nathan asked. Hermione shook her head. "I'm here with my mom. She went to get my clothes," she said. Nathan nodded, and a certain shop caught his attention. The sign said Magical Menagri. It was a pet shop. Nathan walked into the shop, Hermione following behind. Nathan was impressed with the shop as he saw the various animals around the shop. "What are you planning to get?" he asked Hermione as the bushy-haired girl looked around the shop. "I don't know, let's have a look around. I'm sure we'll find something," she said as she walked off. Nathan left his and Hermione's belongings by the cashier and began to look around. Nathan looked through a number of animals there but so far did not find anything. He soon came across an odd-looking eagle with 2 long thin tails perched on a fake branch, near the ceiling. The eagle had golden eyes and 3 sets of wings. Its feathers on its back were shimmering gold, with the feathers on the underside being pure white. It had a really long thin feather protruding from each side of its cranium like some kind of crown. It eyed him carefully before it took off and flew. As it did, it caused clouds to appear and lightning to form around it. The bird landed on Nathan's shoulder, and the storm disappeared. It eyed him carefully before rubbing its head against him. Nathan chuckled. "All right then, I guess it's you and me, buddy," he said. Nathan picked out a cage and some bird seeds and dried meat chunks, seeing as it was a bird of prey. He met Hermione at the cashier, who was holding Half-Kneazle Cat, Bloody Hell, I thought I'd never sell that one, the cashier stated, surprising the two. Why's that? Nathan asked. That there is a Thunderbird, he said, shocking both Hermione and Naruto. I've read about them in Newt Scamander's Fantastic Beasts, and where to find them they're supposed to live in the deserts of the United States, and grow to be taller than a human adult. Why is this one so small? Hermione asked. This one was born with a rare defect. He's an adult in Thunderbird years, but he's never grown bigger than your average eagle. On the flip side, his size works well because Thunderbird tail feathers are highly sought after wand cores. I've sold more than 3 dozen to Ollivander in the last 2 years since I got that Thunderbird, and they sell for 4 galleons each, the owner said. Now there was a couple of students who wanted it as well. Thing is, that whenever they got close it would react violently and shock them. Anyway, I'm not gonna complain, he said, bringing up the prices. The two paid for their pets and left the shop. So, what are you gonna name yours? Nathan asked. Hermione thought about it for a bit. I'm going to name you Crookshanks, she said, petting the cat and getting a purr in return. What about you? Nathan stroked the Thunderbird's beak. I'm going to name him Zeus, he said. The Thunderbird flapped its wings in agreement. Hermione tilts her head in confusion. After the king of the Greek gods? What else do you name a pet Thunderbird? Frank? He joked, getting a giggle from Hermione. So, I just need to get my wand. What about you? He asked. Hermione brought up her list. I need to get a wand first, then get the files and scales, she said. Alright then, let's go, he said as he pulled his cart. Hermione carried her books and new pet as she followed the black-haired reincarnate. Ollivander's. Nathan and Hermione walked into the shop and instantly noticed the mess it was in. A flower pot is broken on the floor. What happened here? They wondered. Ollivander walked out from around the corner holding a broom and dustpan. Sorry about the mess. Using a wand tends to leave the place a little messy, he said as he brought out his own wand. He weaved it, and the broom and dustpan swept up the broken pot. I've been wondering when I would see you, Mr. Potter, Ollivander said with a knowing look. Hermione's eyes widened as she looked between the two for a sec before connecting the dots about Nathan. Holy cricket! You're Nathaniel Potter! She exclaimed. Nathan rubbed his face and Hermione asked after a few moments, why didn't you say what your name was earlier? Because whenever people find out who I am in this world, they act like I'm some sort of savior. I was concerned you would start acting like that too, Nathan said. Oh. Well, you don't need to worry, Hermione said with a smile. Having met you in person, I prefer Nathan Potter over the boy who lived. Nathan was really touched by that. He looked at her. Are we friends now? I've never had one before. I haven't either, she smiled. I'd like to be friends. I think real friends won't care about your scar or you being the boy who lived, Nathan. I don't care about those things. They both shared a smile and Ollivander decided known to make himself known again. Now what was your name again, young lady? Ollivander asked. Hermione Granger. Never heard of you. Are your parents muggles perhaps? He asked. Hermione nodded her head. Yes, my parents are muggles, but they're magically aware, she said. Ah, I see. Well, no worries, not every wizard is born with parents with the same magical ability. Now then, allow me to find you both wands. Ms. Granger, let's start with you, he said as he went through several wand boxes. Seconds later, he walked back with a box. Here we are. 8 inches, rosewood, Vila's hair core, he said, handing over the wooden stick. She waved it, and caused one of his shelves to fall over. Apparently not, he said, heading back for another. They waited for about 2 minutes before he came back with a light-colored box. Give this a try. 10 inches, vine wood, dragon heartstring core, he said. Hermione grasped it, and felt the wind pick up slightly as the magical energy engulfed her. Ollivander chuckled and said, It seems you've found your wand, Ms. Granger. Hermione smiled and paid for her wand. Hermione, came a voice behind them, and Hermione turned to see her mother. Mum, she greeted, and Mrs. Granger asked, Are you ready to go? I've got you everything you need. Hermione nodded. I'll see you tomorrow at the station, Nathan, she said, waving goodbye. Nathan waved back before turning his attention to the old wand maker. Now for you, Mr. Potter, he said as he began looking through the numerous stacks of wands to find one for Nathan. It seems only yesterday that your mother and father were in here buying their first wands, Ollivander said as he searched through one of the shelves. Ah, he said as he pulled one of the boxes out of the shelves. Here we are, Ollivander said as he brought the box over to the desk and opened it. Ash wood, 10 inches, Vila hair, pliant. He handed it to Nathan. Nathan grasped it and gave a small wave with it, the resulting flux of magic causing several cupboard doors to fly out of the cupboards, making a mess. Nathan cautiously placed the wand on the desk, careful not to cause a mess. Apparently not, Ollivander said. With most wizards, he could get it right on the first try. Obviously, though, Nathan Potter was destined to be more than normal. He disappeared for a moment. Here, try this. Maple and Phoenix Feather Core. 7 inches, quite whippy. Nathan tried again, this time caused a glass vase to break. Tricky customer, but we have the right wand here somewhere, said Ollivander as he got another one out. Cherry Wood and Dragon Heartstring. 13 inches. Very powerful wand. This time, a lamp flew up and broke as it hit the ceiling. No, and definitely not. No matter. Ollivander disappeared into the back again and pulled out another one, this one being quite similar to another one. I wonder. Ollivander mumbled to himself as he brought it out. Holly with a Phoenix Feather Core, 11 inches. As Nathan grasped this one, he again felt nothing. He waved it and blasted apart another shelf. Curious. Very curious, Ollivander said to himself. What's curious? Nathan asked as he handed the wand back. I remember every wand I have ever sold, Mr. Potter. It just so happens that the phoenix, whose tail feather resides in this wand, gave another feather. Just one other. You, 13.5 inches, and quite powerful. I thought you might have been destined for this wand, since its brother gave you that scar. Mr. Ollivander finished whilst pointing at Nathan's lightning bolt scar. Nathan rubbed his scar as he asked, and who owned that wand? Mr. Ollivander breathed deeply before sighing. We do not speak his name. The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. It is not always clear why. Ollivander put the wand back. Mr. Ollivander, Nathan asked, is it possible we could do a custom wand for me? I heard you offer those services. I do, Mr. Potter. And since all of your potential wands up front did not bond with you, I was going to get out some of the stronger ones in the back. But a custom wand will be guaranteed to bond with you, but it will cost extra, the wand maker said. Money is not an issue for me, Nathan said. Then please follow me. Ollivander then took him into a special room with jars, pieces of wood, and a magic circle on the floor. What you will need to do is run your hand over each of the jars and see which one gets the strongest reaction. It should manifest as a tingle in the arm. Nathan nodded and did so. He ran his hands over all the jars before he placed his hands on two, both of whom had reactions of equal strength and were the strongest reactions of the whole lot. He pulled them from the rack and gave them to Ollivander. Ah, Thunderbird Tail Feather. I'm not surprised, given you have one as a familiar. Wands with these cores are very powerful but difficult to master, and are excellent for transfiguration. Wands with Thunderbird Tail Feather cores, like the birds the feathers are taken from, are able to sense danger and can cast curses on their own when that danger is toward their wielder. I only been using them for several years, but I find the experience a delight, Ollivander said as he took one. That's the heartstring from a particularly violent Hungarian horntail. Wands with these cores are powerful and learn spells easy, though they aren't the most loyal. But with the Thunderbird Tail Feather, I don't think you will have to worry about that, Ollivander said. Now, same thing but with the wood, Ollivander said. Nathan ran his hands over the woods and eventually picked the one he had the strongest connection with. Ebony wood. Highly suited to all manner of combative magic and transfiguration, Ollivander noted. He placed in the magic circle and began chanting. Nathan watched on with morbid as the wood slowly formed around the two cores. After 10 minutes, Ollivander opened his eyes and the wand was formed. For appearance, think an all-black elder wand. Garrick grabbed it and held it out for Nathan to take. Ebony wood, 13 inches, Thunderbird Tail Feather, and Hungarian Horntail Heartstring cores. Nathan grasped the handle and this time, magic erupted from Nathan. A violent wind blew in all directions, emanating outward from him. His body was covered with fire as lightning sparking all around him. After a few moments, it died down. Whoa! What a rush, Nathan said, astonished at the power of the wand. How very interesting. That has got to be one of the strongest wands I have ever made, Ollivander said. You don't make custom wands that much? Nathan asked. The last time was 20 years ago, Ollivander said. Listen, Mr. Potter, that wand you have is the strongest dual-core wand I have ever made, and it is comparable in power to a few of the weaker triple-core wands. There have only been 10 successfully created wands with triple cores in history. 3 never took owners, 2 overloaded when they met their match against each other. But the other 5 they went on to change the world. I believe we can expect great things from you. Nathan left after that, ready to start Hogwarts. Chapter End. The Leaky Cauldron. Nathan and Hagrid sat on a table eating away some stew. Nathan sat in silence as he switched between eating his stew and feed Zeus some meat. You alright, 8? You seem very quiet, Hagrid asked. Nathan turned to the half-giant. Listen, I am sorry again about what happened in Gringotts. Nathan apologized, which made Hagrid adopt a soft expression. It's okay, 8. I forgive ye. I think I would have reacted the same, Hagrid said, and Nathan smiled in gratitude. They sat for a bit longer in silence before Nathan broke it. He killed my parents, didn't he? The one who gave me this, Nathan spoke, touching his scar. You know, Hagrid, I know you do. Nathan, of course, already knew thanks to Sinistra, but he thought he should have Hagrid explain in case Dumbledore asked him if Nathan knew the truth. Hagrid sighed and pushed his bowl away. First, and understand this, 'cause it's very important, not all wizards are good. Some of them go bad. A few years ago, there was this one wizard who went as bad as you can go. And his name was V. Hagrid shuddered as he struggled to even say the name of the Dark Wizard. Why don't you write it down? Nathan asked. Hagrid shook his head. No, I can't spell it all right. His name was Voldemort, he whispered. Voldemort? Nathan repeated with his superb acting, but not loudly enough to get people's attention. Sure, Hagrid shushed him. It was dark times, dark times. Flashback. A black-cloaked man walked along a path towards a house and used his wand to enter. Voldemort started gather up some followers, brought him over to the dark side. Anyone stood up to him ended up dead. Your parents fought against him, but nobody lived once he decided to kill them. The cloaked man points his wand, Avada Kedavra. A green spell fired from his wand and hits Lily, making her scream her son's name before dropping to the floor dead. Nobody, not one, except you, Hagrid said. End of flashback. Me? Voldemort tried to murder me? Nathan asked in disbelief, once again using his superb acting skills to play his ignorance up. Yes, that ain't no ordinary cut on your forehead, 8. A mark like that only comes from being touched by a curse, and an evil curse at that, Hagrid explained. What happened to Voldemort? Nathan asked in his acting. Hagrid just looked outside the window and out into the dead of night. Some say he died. Codswallop, in my opinion, nobody ever found his body. Nope, I reckon he's out there still, too tired to go on. But one thing's absolutely certain, he said, getting Nathan's attention. Something about you stumped him that night. That's why you're famous, Ethan. That's why everybody knows your name. You're the boy who lived, Hagrid stated. Nathan understood why people acted the way they did. Nathan, as a baby, had survived an encounter with the most insane and monstrous dark wizard in history. Naruto had known this already, of course. What he did not tell Hagrid was he still had nightmares about that time. It always happened near Halloween. Train station. 8:30 a.m. Come on, 8. Don't want to be late now, do you? Hagrid said as the Potter Scion then pushed his cart faster. Minutes later, they arrived at a platform. Hagrid pulled out his pocket watch and his eyes widened. Blimey, is that the time? Sorry, Nate, I'm gonna have to leave you. Dumbledore be wanting his he'll be wanting to see me. Now, your train leaves in 30 minutes, so you have plenty of time, he said, reaching into his pocket and bringing out a golden slip. Here's your ticket, Nate. Stick to it, 8, it's very important. Stick to your ticket, he said. Nathan looked at the platform number, platform 9 3/4. But Hagrid, this must be a mistake. This is platform 9 3/4, there's no such thing, Nathan said in his act. Is there? Nathan asked, only to find that Hagrid was gone. Nathan glared at the spot where Hagrid had been and pushed his cart further. You're lucky I already knew about the platform, Hagrid. Nathan walked through the magically concealed entrance and saw a large black and red 460 steam engine train. The young boy heard the train whistle. Better hurry up, Nathan said as he hurried aboard the train, but not before leaving their luggage to the employers. But not before taking out the Hogwarts, a history. Some light reading to occupy his time would do. Well, light for him, anyway. Occlumency was so great. Not only did it protect you from legilimency, a skilled user could also learn new skills and learn new info anywhere from 3 to 10 times faster. And he was only about a year away from mastering occlumency and legilimency. This was due to him starting to learn it while he was young. He'd be through this book in a few hours, a day tops. He was reading it to see if there was any info he didn't already know. The train let out a whistle before its wheels began to turn. 30 minutes later, the students waved goodbye to their parents as the train took off. 3.5 hours later. Nathan sat in his compartment, having read through all the chapters of the book. He looked up and watched the train go by the surrounding landscape with a smile, then turned to his book. He pulled out his wand and pointed at the book. Radicchio, he incanted, as the large book shrunk to the size of a small eraser. Satisfied at successfully casting the shrinking charm for the first time, he pocketed his wand and shrunken book. Voldemort's memories were very handy. Several minutes passed and a red-headed boy opened the door. "Excuse me, do you mind? I don't really know where else to sit," he asked. "Sure. Come on in," Nathan said as the new kid sat opposite of him. "Thanks," he said. "I'm Ron, by the way, Ron Weasley," he introduced himself. Nathaniel Potter, the Potter scion himself, making Ron go wide-eyed. "So it's true. I mean, do you really have the," he stuttered. "The what?" Nathan asked. "The scar?" Ron whispered. Nathan remembered then that he had not cut his hair in a few months, so his spiky black hair was a mane that also covered the scar. "Oh, yeah," Nathan moved his thick spiky mane out of the way and showed the scar. Wicked Ron stared. Nathan did not care all that much. He was getting used to people staring at the scar. Just then, a small cart filled with sweets rolled up. "Anything off the trolley, dears?" the nice old woman asked. "No thanks. I'm all set," Ron said, bringing up a half-mush sandwich from his jacket. Nathan felt a bit bad before taking out several galleons from his pockets. "What'll this get us?" Nathan asked. "Whoa!" Ron sputtered at the amount he had. Time passed as the two continued talking about what they think they would expect at Hogwarts. Ron, being something of an expert on wizard food, explained what kind of sweets they were eating. Nathan opened up a small box with multicolored jelly beans inside. "Bertie Bott's every flavor beans?" he asked. Surely they did not mean every possible flavor imaginable, right? "They mean every flavor. There's chocolate and peppermint, and there's also spinach, liver, and tripe. George swore he got a bogey-flavored one once," Ron said. Nathan stopped eating after the explanation and spit out the bean in his mouth. Last thing he wanted was to taste a bean that was urine-flavored, shit-flavored, cum-flavored, or rotting flesh-flavored. That would just ruin his day. Nathan picked up a golden blue package. "These aren't real chocolate frogs, are they?" he asked. "It's only a spell. Besides, it's the cards you want. Each pack's got a famous witch or wizard. I got about 500 myself," he said. Nathan opened the box, revealing a chocolate frog, which to their surprise leaped onto the glass window before jumping out through the opening. "That's rotten luck. They've only got one good jump in them to begin with," Ron stated. Nathan picked another chocolate frog and ate it before it could jump. Milk chocolate," he said. Then he took a look at his card. It was a middle-aged man with light blonde hair, and he had heterochromia, with his right eye having a whitish-blue color and the left a brown color. He also had a thin white mustache. "Gellert Grindelwald," Nathan pronounced while looking at the holographic image of the greatest dark wizard in history. "Whoa, his card is really rare. It's almost impossible to find it," he explained. "Hey, he's gone," Nathan said as Grindelwald's image disappeared. "Well, you can't expect him to hang around all day, can you?" Ron said. Nathan put his card to the side and continued eating. Nathan noticed Ron's rat pop out of a bag. "This is Scabbers, by the way. Pathetic, isn't he?" Ron stated while looking at his pet. "Just a bit," the black-haired wizard responded. "Fred gave me a spell to turn him yellow. Want to see?" Ron asked. "Sure." Nathan shrugged. Ron pulls out his wand and clears his throat. "Okay, let's do this." Just as he was about to start the enchantment, the door opened. "Hey, has anyone seen a toad?" a boy named Neville lost when a familiar girl asked. "Hermione," Nathan stated as he got up and hugging the girl. "Nathan? Where were you? I couldn't find you at the platform," she asked. "I got here early. Sorry about that," he said. Hermione accepted his apology, and then noticed Ron with his wand out. "Oh, you're doing magic? Let's see it," then she motioned him to start. Ron once again cleared his throat. "Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow, turn this stupid fat rat yellow," he said, sapping Scabbers, who let out a squeak. Nothing happened. "I think your brother may have pranked you," Nathan said kindly. "I think he might, right? I'm sorry, I don't know your name," Hermione apologized to Ron. "Ron Weasley," he replies with his mouth full. "Well, you two better change into your robes. I expect we'll arrive soon," she said as she made to leave the apartment before turning back to Nathan. Oh, and Nathan, you've got some chocolate on your lip, she says, licking her thumb and wiping it off before leaving. Nathan sat back as he pondered this. I should probably get my head checked. I'm mentally 30 years old and attracted to my 12-year-old female friend. Nathan stopped that line of thought. Then again, when I was a shinobi, I was constantly trying to get Sakura to date me, so this is kind of the usual for me. I think I'll stick with being friends for now. He noticed the looks Ron was giving him. Don't say a word, Naruto said. Hogwarts Station. 30 minutes later. The train lets out a whistle as it comes to a complete stop. Several minutes later, the students begin to exit the locomotive. Nathan and Ron exit the train now wearing their school robes and notice the half-giant walking alongside with a lantern. Right then. First years. This way, please. Come on now, don't be shy. Hurry up, Hagrid pronounced. The two walk up to him. Hiya 8, the half-giant said. Hey Hagrid, he said casually. Ron stared at the half-giant in amazement. Whoa, Ron stated. Right then, this way to the boats. Come on now, follow me, he said. What about our luggage? Nathan asked. Don't worry about that, they'll be in your rooms by the end of the day, he said, reassuring him. Nathan nodded, thankful that he had used the shrinking charm on his book and stuffed it in his pocket, and hurried up to the boats along with Ron. Moments later, the boats are found rowing across a vast lake. Nathan and Ron were paired in a boat, and they looked up ahead to see a huge castle in the distance. All the kids stared in awe at the castle. Wicked, Ron stated. Nathan, Ron, and Hermione ran upstairs with the rest of the students. They were all stopped by an elder teacher, Professor McGonagall. She looked upon the new prospective students with a smile. Welcome to Hogwarts. Now in a few moments you will pass through these doors and join your classmates, but before you can take your seats you must be sorted into your houses, she said. Nathan and his group looked amongst each other before turning their attention to the teacher. They are Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin. Minerva, of course, said Slytherin last, letting everyone know subtly which house she liked the least. Now while you are here, your house will be like your family. Your triumphs will earn you house points. Any rule breaking and you will lose points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points is awarded the house cup. A scared-looking boy just behind Ron and Nathan spots his toad by the teacher's feet and rushes forward. Trevor, he said, picking up his pet. McGonagall stares down on him with a raised eyebrow. Sorry, he said as he backed away. McGonagall shook her head. The sorting ceremony will begin momentarily, she said before walking away. Nathan took this time to speak amongst his group. I hope we're all in the same house, he said, Ron and Hermione agreeing with him, but only because they were friends with Nathan and not with each other. It was then when a boy with slick-back blonde hair spoke up. The same asshole Nathan spoke to at Malkin's shop. It's true then, what they're saying on the train. Nathaniel Potter has come to Hogwarts, he said. The students heard him and began to whisper amongst themselves. This is Crabbe and Goyle, he said, pointing to the two other boys by his side, and I'm Malfoy. Draco Malfoy then frowned when he heard Ron snicker. Think my name is funny, do you? No need to ask yours. Red hair and a hand-me-down robe? You must be a Weasley. You will soon find that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort, I can help you there, he said with a sneer as he held out his hand. Nathan looked down at Malfoy's hand in amusement, and let out a chuckle confusing the other students. His chuckle eventually annoyed Draco and he demanded, What's so funny, Potter? That you think that I, Nathan stopped chuckling and gained a deathly serious expression, would ever be friends with someone who insulted my mother? What are you on about? I didn't, Malfoy said, but Nathan interrupted them. You mentioned the other kind back in Malkin's shop. It doesn't take a genius to know you are talking about Muggleborns. I would never debase myself to be friends with somebody that causally throws around that racist slur which insults my mother, Nathan said with a low snarl. Some of the other students that were Muggleborns or knew about what Malfoy had meant by his comments glared at the blonde-haired Ponce. This is the first time we have met, Potter, Malfoy snarled. Really? So you don't remember meeting me at Malkin's shop? Wow. You're racist and stupid, Nathan commented, causing some of the other students to laugh at Draco's expense. Nathan normally tries to be polite and respectful, but someone who causally insults the woman who gave him life? No pleasantries needed at that point. Why you, Draco growled, but it was at that point that McGonagall returned and tapped him on the shoulder with a rolled-up paper. Draco moved back to his group with a one last glare at Nathan. McGonagall turns to every student. We are ready for you now, she said as the doors open and the professor leads everyone through Great Hall. Nathan and his group looked around in awe. There are 4 long tables for each respected house with many students already seated, as well as floating candles, and the roof itself appeared to be the night sky. That's one neat ceiling, Nathan said. It's not real, it's just bewitched to look like the night sky. I read about it in Hogwarts, a history, Hermione explained. McGonagall motioned for the students to stop. All right, will you wait along here, please? Now, before we begin, Professor Dumbledore would like to say a few words, she said before moving to the side. An elderly man with a long white beard, half-moon glasses and a maroon-colored robe stood up from his seat. I have a few start-of-term notices I wish to announce. The first years, please note that the Dark Forest is strictly forbidden to all students. Also, our caretaker, Mr. Filch, he motioned to a ragged old man holding a red-eyed cat, has asked me to remind you that the third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds, to everyone who does not wish to die a most painful death. Thank you, he said before sitting down. Nathan wondered what he was on about. Why would he say that? It's like he wants people to explore it, Nathan thought. McGonagall walked back to the group with a stool, scroll, and an odd wizard's hat. When I call your name, you will come forth. I shall place the sorting hat over your head and you will be sorted into your houses, she said as she opened the rather long scroll. Hermione Granger, she called out. Hermione was surprised. She didn't think she'd be the first on the list. Okay, relax, she told herself. Mental that one, I'm telling you, Ron said. Nathan elbowed him lightly on the ribs. Ron rubbed his ribs. What? He asked, confused by Nathan's actions. Hermione sits on the stool as McGonagall places the hat on her head. To their surprise, it started speaking. Ah, right then, him right, okay, Gryffindor. It shouted. Every house began to clap for the newest member of Gryffindor. Hermione jumps off the stool with a smile as she walked over to her respected house and sat down. Ah, right. Voldemort's memories showed that the sorting hat reads the mind of the students to see where they would best fit. This could be a problem. Nathan thought with trepidation. Draco Malfoy, McGonagall called out. Draco saunters up to the stool proudly. Nathan heard something scream in his mind mentally, and he rubbed his head. Slytherin! 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 The old hat didn't even get put on Draco's head before it announced Slytherin. With that, the mental screaming stopped, and he realized it had been Draco, broadcasting his thoughts so loudly that any Legilimens would have heard it. Somehow, he managed to hear it despite his shields being up. That might also be because Nathan devoted most of his occlumency shields to protecting his memories as Naruto and the ones from Voldemort's, so the ones protecting his memories as Nathaniel Potter were the weakest. Nathan didn't notice that there was a girl behind him with a bowl-cut hairstyle that was rubbing her ears, having heard the same mental screaming. The students applauded as the boy walked over and sat down with his housemates. Susan Bones, the elder teacher, called out. A small red-haired girl walks up nervously, while the sorting hat was making its choice. Nathan noticed a greasy, black-haired, pale teacher looking at him. As he did, his scar began to hurt. But Nathan ignored it and watched the sorting. Let's see, I know HUF Felipe UFF. The hat declared. Everyone cheered as the girl walked to her respected house. Ron Weasley, McGonagall called out. The redhead gulped and walks up to the stool. He turned to his friend. Nathan gave him a thumbs up and a short nod. Ah. Another Weasley, I know just where to put you, the hat said, making the redhead more nervous. Gryffindor! It shouted. Ron sighs in relief, as everyone cheered as Ron took a seat opposite of Hermione. Nathaniel Potter, McGonagall called out. The room went silent at the many whisperings could be heard as Nathan walked up to the stool. Dumbledore watches with much interest. The professor places the hat on his head. Mr. Potter, please let your occlumency shields down so you can be sorted. If there wasn't whispering before, there definitely was now. Dumbledore, wondering if this was true, used a gentle probe on the boy but soon ran into what he could only describe as a wall of stone. He pulled back and nobody noticed his left eye change color to brown for a moment before returning to their normal blue as he rubbed his head. But Nathan remained calm and said in annoyance, You just had to say that out loud. My apologies, but I must be able to read your mind in order to sort you properly, the hat said. Fine, Nathan relented and let down part of his shields that protected Nathaniel Potter's memories. After a moment, the hat spoke in his mind. Mr. Potter, I did say all of your shields. You only need to see what I am showing you right now. The rest in private and not important to your sorting. Don't test my patience, Hat. Nathan thought. Difficult, very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see, and a good, sharp mind too. That's plenty of talent, oh yes, and a thirst for knowledge, but where to put you? The Hat asked itself. Nathan closed his eyes. Not Slytherin, he whispered. Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know it's all in your head, and Slytherin will help you on your way to greatness. There's no doubt about that, no? It asked. Nathan continued to whisper, put me in Gryffindor. That's final. The Hat grinned. Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor. It declared. Nathan smiled. He got to be with his friends. The 11-year-old got off the stool and walked toward the table as everyone cheered. He took a seat next to Hermione. 45 minutes of sorting later, McGonagall dings her cup with a fork. Your attention, please, she said as she stood from her seat. Dumbledore rose from his own seat. Let the feast begin, he stated. To the newcomer's surprise, foods of all kinds magically appeared on the tables. The halls filled with awe and chatter as the students began to chow down. I knew we'd be in the same house, Nathan said as he ate a chicken leg. Ron nodded in agreement as he stuffed his face in. Hey Nathan, what did the Hat mean when he told you to let down your occlumency shields? Hermione asked. Nathan looked up from his meal as well as Ron. I'll tell you later, he said with a wink. Nathan then turned to the teacher he saw earlier. Say, Percy, who's that teacher talking to Professor Quirrell? He asked. Nathan wanted to know who the greasy git was. Percy turned to the teachers. Oh, that's Professor Snape, head of the Slytherin house, he responded. What's he teach? Nathan asked. Potions, but everyone here knows it's dark arts he fancies. He's been after Quirrell's job for years, Percy explains before he continued eating. Ron reached for a chicken wing when a ghost head pops out, freaking the two out. Hello? How are you? Welcome to Gryffindor, the ghost said as he flew away. As he did, more ghosts come pouring from walls, sailing through the air as they do. Nathan heard a girl shout, Look, it's Bloody Baron. He turned to see the same ghost from earlier float near the table. Hello, Sir Nicholas, have a nice summer? Percy asked. Dismal. Once again, my request to join the headless hunt has been denied, the ghost slumped as it floated up and away. Ron then recognizes him. Hey, I know you. You're nearly headless Nick. The redhead pointed out. Nearly headless? Both Nathan and Hermione thought. I prefer Sir Nicholas if you don't mind, the ghost retorted. Nearly headless? How can you be nearly headless? Hermione asked. The ghost turned to the newcomers. Like this, he said before grabbing his head and pulling it to the side. Nathan's group resisted the urge to gag as the ghost's head hung on to the neck by just a bit of skin. Clearly, somebody fucked up his decapitation, Nathan noted. The feast continued for a while before the houses headed to their respective dorms. Nathan, Ron, and Hermione looked over the staircase as they see the other students walking to their dorms and several staircases switching to another pathway. Keep up, please, and follow me. Quickly now. Come on, Percy said. As they continued walking up the stairs, Nathan was amazed by the multiple paintings hung against the wall, even more since the ones in the painting could move and talk. Seamus, that picture's moving, Neville stated as he pointed. Look at that one, Ron said. I think she fancies you, Nathan joked with Ron, who backed away slightly from the painting. Welcome to Hogwarts, a man within a painting said. Nathan and Hermione waved hello before continuing their trek. As the house approached its dorm, they came up to a large painting of a large woman in a pink dress. Password? She asked. Percy nodded. Caput Draconis, he said. The woman nodded and the painting opened up to reveal a gape through the wall. Follow me, everyone. Keep up. Quickly, come on, Percy said as he entered the dorm with the rest following. Gather around here, Percy said as the students entered the common room. Welcome to the Gryffindor common room. Boys' dormitories are upstairs and down to your left. Girls the same on your right. You'll find your belongings have already been brought up, he said as the students walked towards their dorms. Nathan found his belongings on his bed, which was between Ron's and Neville's. Zeus was chilling out at the bedrest. When he saw his master, he flew over and rested on Nathan's shoulder. Nathan chuckled and petted his Thunderbird's beak and fed him some meat. He then noticed a note on his bed. He opened the note. Oh, this is my schedule, he said to himself as he looked it over. Nathan pulled out his shrunken book and pointed his wand at it, and muttered, Engorgio. The book returned to its true size and he put it back with his other books. Nathan placed the note on top of his trunk and placed Zeus's cage near the window. He then headed towards the bathroom to brush his teeth before he slumped in his bed and drifted into sleep. He was looking forward to starting his new school life. Chapter end. Monday morning. Nathan woke up as Zeus nuzzled its beak against his hair. He turned to see Neville and Dean getting dressed and proceeded to do the same. Switching from his night clothes to his school robes, now with red highlights and a Gryffindor emblem on the upper left chest area of the robe. He then tried to wake up Ron and Seamus. "Come on guys, wake up." 5 more minutes, Ron and Seamus moaned. Nathan eventually gave up after another minute of trying. Nathan picked up his schedule along with the required books and headed downstairs. "Morning, Hermione," he said with a smile. The brunette turned and waved hi with a smile. "Where's Seamus and Ron?" she asked. "I tried, but they don't want to wake up." Nathan shrugged. "Well, I'm sure they'll wake up before class starts. Come on, we've got plenty of time to study beforehand," the brunette said as she led Nathan to the Great Hall. Great Hall. Nathan and Hermione sat down side by side as they looked over their schedule while they ate breakfast, as did most of the students in the Great Hall. "Let's see, Transfiguration first with Professor McGonagall, then Potions with Professor Snape," Nathan said as he pulled out his books along with Hermione. The two read the contents and took notes in a leather-strapped notebook. Not that Nathan needed to, thanks to Voldemort's memories, but he had to keep up the act, at least until 2nd or 3rd year. That damn hat had already blabbed to the whole school that he knew a clemency, something that not just any wizard can learn. He feared that the unspeakable would come for him, strap him to a chair and legilimens him until he finally caved if he gave them reason to. He needed to keep his head low and hide what he really knew, though he would have to explain himself to Hermione. Luckily, he did have a backup plan for such an occasion. Nathan grabbed some eggs, toast, and bacon as he continued to read the contents of the first few chapters of both books. Nathan and Hermione continued for several more minutes until it was time for them to head for their first class. Transfiguration class? Nathan sat next to Hermione as the class settled down. The instructor, McGonagall, made her appearance. "Good morning, class, and welcome to Transfiguration class. My name is Professor Minerva McGonagall, and I'll be your Transfiguration teacher for your following years here at Hogwarts," she said as the students looked amongst each other. McGonagall soon gave her rundown of the class information before starting. Transfiguration was split into 5 courses: Transformation, Switching, Vanishment, Conjuration, and Untransfiguration. As first years and therefore newbies, they start with Transformation. As instructed, the class brought out their books and began to read and take notes on the lecture. Nathan jotted down notes on everything to keep up his act. Transfiguration was pretty complex, even for a beginner, which Voldemort's memories confirmed. It would be best to have notes. After giving them some time to read through the book, McGonagall began to explain transformation by showing them an animagus transformation. Nathan watched in awe as their instructor morphed into a tabby cat and sat on her desk in said form. The black-haired young man returned to his page and continued with his notes. He also made some side notes to start working on transforming into his animagus form. The animagus form was something Voldemort unfortunately had no knowledge of, so this would be a great challenge for him, one that he looked forward to. His thoughts were interrupted when the doors opened. Nathan and Hermione turned to see Seamus and Ron walking and looking around for the teacher. Ron let out a sigh in relief. "Phew, made it. Can you imagine the look on McGonagall's face if we were late?" he asked Seamus. Just as the words left his lips, McGonagall jumped off her desk and morphed back into her human form, leaving the two wizards gobsmacked. "That was bloody brilliant," Ron complimented. "Thank you for that assessment, Mr. Weasley. Perhaps if I were to transfigure Mr. Finnegan and yourself into a pocket watch, at least then one of you might be on time," she retorted. "We're sorry, ma'am. We got lost," Seamus explained, and the elder witch shook her head. "Then perhaps a map? I trust you don't need one to find your seats," she said. The boys nodded and looked for an open seat. The class continued with its lecture, and Seamus and Ron found 2 seats behind Nathan and Hermione. "Hey, Nate. Why didn't you wake us up?" Ron asked. "I tried, but you two wouldn't wake up," Nathan said. "Don't worry about it, though. I wrote the notes down. I'll let you borrow them. And we're on page 10, Nathan whispered. The 2 boys nodded and turned to the page. McGonagall began to explain the concepts of the animagus spell. Nathan was very eager to find out what his was. Towards the end of the class, McGonagall gave the assignment to turn a match into a needle and perform it during class. Nathan and Hermione were the only ones who got it down within the few minutes before class ended, earning Gryffindor 10 points. Potions class. Potions lessons took place down in one of the dungeons. It was colder there than up in the main castle, and would have been quite creepy enough without the pickled animals floating in glass jars all around the walls. Granted, Nathan thought it was nothing compared to one of Orochimaru's labs. This potions classroom did not even compare to the twisted experiments that freak had on hand. Nathan sat next to Hermione. Snape frowned at his class as he walked in with his cloak in a flourish. There will be no foolish wand-waving or silly incantations in this class. As such, I don't expect many of you to enjoy the subtle science and exact art that is potion-making, he said, looking around at his students. However, for those select few, he says while looking at Draco, who smiled at him, who possessed the predisposition. I can teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses. I can tell you how to bottle fame, brew glory, and even put a stopper in death. If you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach. The class look amongst each other, whispering could be heard here and there. Snape notices Nathan writing stuff down in his notebook, keeping up his act. Which in Snape's view, is not paying attention. Then again, maybe some of you have come to Hogwarts in possession of abilities so formidable that you feel confident enough to not pay attention, he said. Nathan stops writing and looks up. He turned to Snape and Snape said, Mr. Potter, our new celebrity. Tell me, what I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? He asks. Hermione's hand skyrockets, while Nathan answers, a sleeping potion so powerful it earned the name of Draught of Living Death. And where, Mr. Potter, would you look if I asked you to find me a bezoar? Snape asked. A bezoar is taken from the stomach of a goat, and it will save you from most poisons, Nathan replied. Snape continued on in his quest to humiliate Nathaniel. And what is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? There is no difference. They are the same plant, and also go by a third name. Aconite. Nathan answered. What is the Grindelwald potion and its uses? Snape asked him with an edge in his voice, trying some of the sixth-year stuff. The Grindelwald potion is a healing potion with the power to awaken a person from a magically induced sleep, which gives it the ability to reverse the effects of potions like the sleeping draught and the draught of living death. Nathan answered. And why do Ashwinder eggs need to be frozen to be used in potions? Snape snarled as he really was getting desperate to trip up the Potter Scion and embarrass him. And Ashwinder's eggs are extremely hot and flammable, and if not frozen in time, will light the surrounding area on fire. Nathan answered with an annoyed look. Describe for me Amortentia's effects. Snape snarled. Amortentia is the most powerful love potion in existence. It has a different aroma for everyone who smells it, reminding each person of the things that they find most attractive. The effects of the potion on a person are described to be near instantaneous, with the drinker being pale and sickly and becoming obsessed with the object of their affections, speaking of them as though hit by a ray of purest sunlight, and becoming excited or dangerously unstable towards others. Amortentia doesn't create actual love, as such a feeling is impossible to manufacture or imitate. It creates a powerful obsession/infatuation to whoever the potion is keyed to. Though, it has to be administered constantly, otherwise the effects will wear off. Nathan answered long-windedly. And who created Felix Felicis? Snape asked. Nathan shrugged as he did know what it was but didn't know who had created the potion. Voldemort apparently never bothered to learn it. Why are you asking him all these questions? Aren't you supposed to be teaching this to us, you greasy git? Asked one of the Gryffindors in the back. 10 points from Gryffindor for your cheek, Mr. Weasley, and detention with me tonight. Snape snapped before turning back to Nathan. As for you, Mr. Potter, Felix Felicis was created by Zygmunt Budge in 1532 and was deemed as his greatest creation of his career. Snape then turned to everyone else and snarked, well, why aren't you all writing this down? As they began writing all that down, Hermione asked him, hey, how did you know all that? Those last few questions were all sixth-year stuff. I may have skimmed through the potions book when I got it. It briefly mentions the last few questions in the back. Nathan said, as it was true. Those descriptions were in the back of the book but not much besides that. Everyone, join with a partner and wait at a station until further instructions, Snape said after he saw everyone was finished writing. Nathan nudged Hermione, who smiled and nodded as they headed towards their station, as the other students did the same. For today's lab, you will be brewing one sample of a cure for Boyle's potion. You and your partner are to be finished with an acceptable cure by the end of the class for a passing grade. You will find the ingredients in the cupboards and drawers by your stations. The recipe is in your book on page 18. Begin, he said as the students began their work. Nathan filled the cauldron with water as Hermione lit the fire on the Bunsen burner. The two then turned to page 18. Okay, so we'll be needing 6 snake fangs, 4 horned slugs, and 2 porcupine quills, and some dried nettles, Nathan said as he looked in the drawer and brought out the ingredients. Both of them each began to crush 3 snake fangs into fine powder with a pestle. So Nathan, Hermione said, getting her friend's attention, tell me about yourself. The black-haired young man shrugged. Not much to tell, I'm afraid. Everyone knows my story. My parents and younger twin were murdered by a madman who thought himself a Dark Lord, and I was orphaned. I didn't even learn I was a wizard until the day we met, he explained, surprising the brunette. She was surprised that, like herself, Nathan had discovered his wizarding abilities a tad late. At the orphanage I stayed at, well, it wasn't the greatest. Sure, the other kids didn't bully me after I started having bouts of accidental magic, but they wanted nothing to do with me afterwards, so I was kind of a loner, and the only people I even talked to were the older staff members, he said, and Hermione was saddened by this. It seemed many muggles considered wizards as freaks. I did find out that I had muggle relative when I was 8. An aunt on my mother's side. I sought her out, if only to know if I had a home with them. I take it that you didn't? Hermione asked. Something like that, Nathan said as he remembered the event clearly. Flashback. Nathan and the orphanage staff member who was with him pulled up to the Dursleys at number 4 Privet Drive. Nathan walked up to the door and rang the bell. A fat man and thin lady answered. Yes, what is it? The fat man said rudely. Hi, Nathan said, are you Vernon and Petunia Dursley? Who's asking? Petunia asked. Well, apparently you're my aunt on my mother's side, and I wanted to find you, Nathan said. Pet, isn't the boy that we gave away? Vernon trailed off, and Petunia nodded. All of a sudden, Vernon flew into a rage. Get lost! He shouted to Nathan as he pushed him down, causing him to hit the pavement, and the orphanage worker who had drove him there rushed to his aid. We don't want you freaks around us normal folk. Don't ever come back. With that, he slammed the door in Nathan's face, and Nathan and the orphanage worker made their way back to the car. Flashback end. Hermione gasped. How could they do that? She asked. Nathan shrugged. It's simple. They were magic-hating muggles that knew about magic. Hermione placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, Nathan, you've got me. And Ron, I guess. You're my best friend, she says with a sad smile. Nathan stares at her before smiling and saying sincerely, Thank you, Hermione. After crushing the fangs into fine powder, Hermione took out a measuring cup and added in the 4 measures of crushed fangs into the now heated and slightly boiling water. Nathan read the instruction and raised the temperature to 250 for 10 seconds. Next step. Wave the wand once, he read. Hermione lowered the temperature. Nathan brought out his wand, and in a swift motion, a light violet gleam waved through the now boiling water. Okay, so we leave it sit for 33 to 45 minutes, he said, while flipping an hourglass. I think it's coming along nicely, Hermione stated as she looked into the boiling pink liquid. Nathan nodded in agreement. Let's do those horned slugs while we wait, Nathan suggested, and they got started on that. Unlike with those two, things were not going as well for the rest of the Gryffindors. Snape swept around the room in his long black cloak, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticizing almost everyone except the Slytherins and praised Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs when clouds of acid green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and their potion was seeping across the stone floor, burning holes in people's shoes. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools while Neville, who had been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. Idiot boy! Snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with one wave of his wand. I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire? Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. Take him up to the hospital wing, Snape spat at Seamus. Then he rounded on Nathan and Hermione, who had been working 2 groups from Neville. You Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's 5 points you've lost for Gryffindor. It was so blatantly unfair that Hermione looked like she would try to argue, but Nathan clasped her shoulder, getting her attention. Don't, he muttered, something tells me that he'll do it, regardless of our own innocence. He seems to hate me for some reason. Arguing with him is pointless, so let's just focus on the potion. Nathan and Hermione looked at their books. We're supposed to remove the cauldron. The book does not mention that, Nathan said. Better make a quick note on that, Hermione said as she jotted down on her notebook. 40 minutes later, the stewed slugs were ready and they added the slugs, turning the liquid from pink to turquoise. They turned off the Bunsen burner and carefully removed the cauldron from the heated stand. Hermione backed away carefully as she let them fall into the potion. Nathan and Hermione slowly moved back to the cauldron to see it turn into a more clear color. Okay, stir clockwise 5 times and wave your wand, he spoke as he stirred 5 times and moved out of the way as Hermione brought out her wand and waved it. A small smoke cloud arose from the cauldron before it cleared, leaving only the steaming hot potion. I believe that's it, he said, and Hermione nodded. Professor Snape, Hermione called out. The instructor walked over to the two. What is it, Miss Granger? He snarled. I believe we are finished with our potion, she responded. Snape took a vial and examined the liquid. A few minutes later, it is acceptable, he said slowly, as if pissed him off that the son of his childhood tormentor could make a good potion. For being the first to complete 5 points to Gryffindor. The way he said it made it seem as if it pained him to award points to anyone but Slytherin. Minutes later, the remaining students began to complete their potions. For tonight's assignment, you are to single-handedly brew 1 infusion of wormwood, he said before the students exited the classroom. Lunch. Nathan had been disappointed with defense against the dark arts. Damn, Quirrell seemed like a stuttering fool that was afraid of his own shadow. The class had learned several charms including Lumos, Nox, Periculum, and Vertilis. Lumos was a simple charm that not only illuminated the wand tip, but could repel spectral foes such as Gytrashes and malevolent spirits. Nox cancelled the charm. Periculum was a charm that worked as a flare, shooting red sparks into the air that appeared like fireworks, sort of like a rescue flare. Verdilius is a charm that shoots green sparks from the wand. Nathan and Hermione performed Vermilis, which is basically a more advanced version of Vertilis, and shot red sparks during class, which earned them 10 points for Gryffindor and regained some of the points Snape unfairly took away. Ron sat across from them and copied the notes off Nathan's notebook, as Seamus had already finished. Hermione and Nathan were working on turning the matchstick into a needle while simultaneously changing the metal of the needle. Minutes later, the wizards stopped for a break as they grabbed some food from the table. Nathan noticed Seamus pointing his wand at a cup. Eye of Rabbit, Harp of String Hum, turn this water into rum, the boy said as he looked at his drink before shaking his head. Eye of Rabbit, Harp String Hum, he continued. What's Seamus trying to do to that glass of water? Nathan asked. Turn it into rum. He actually managed a weak tea yesterday, before Ron said. Boom! They turned to Seamus as the cup exploded in his face, comically singeing his hair and covering his face with soot. Some of the students laughing at him as he coughed up smoke. The three shook their heads and continued to what they were doing. A little bit later, a flock of owls start to glide into the hall through the rafters. Ah, mail's here, Ron said, as the owls began to drop mail to the students. Nathan notices the newspaper that Ron puts to the side. Can I borrow this? Nathan asks. Ron nods. Thanks, he said as he starts reading the daily news. Neville, healed from his boils, unwrapped a gift. It was a crystal clear ball with gold ring around it. Hey, look! Neville's got a Remembrall, Dean pointed out. I've heard about those. When the smoke turns red, it means you've forgotten something, Hermione explains, and just as she did, the smoke went from white to red. Only problem is I can't remember what I've forgotten, Neville said before he attempted to remember what it was exactly that he forgot. Hey guys, somebody broke into Gringotts, Nathan said. Hermione and Ron gathered around the lightning-scared wizard. Listen to this. Believed to be the work of dark witches or wizards unknown, Gringotts goblins, while acknowledging the breach, insists that nothing was taken. The vault in question, number 713, had in fact been emptied earlier that same day. Nathan spoke out loud. 713? How odd. That's the vault that me and Hagrid went to. Nathan pondered out loud. He was also thinking, something is definitely going on here. Only a few hours after I threatened to have Hagrid skewered, the vault with the vaguely important small package is broken into? I smell a plot, and I'm in the middle of it. The three looked amongst each other before they continued to read the article. History of Magic class. Nathan sat in the classroom taking notes of the lecture. The instructor of the class was a ghost named Cuthbert Binns. What made Nathan chuckle was that the ghost had failed to notice he was dead. According to Hogwarts folklore, he simply got up from his chair in the staffing room one morning and left his body behind. Talk about dedication. Though he had heard rumors that Binns could put anyone to sleep and talk too much about the giant and goblin wars while ignoring more important topics. He hoped they were wrong, otherwise he would have to do something about that later. Flying class. The students of Gryffindor and Slytherin lined up in 2 rows with brooms by their side on the ground. A woman with short, spiky hair and hawk yellow eyes walks down the line. She was Madame Hooch. "Good afternoon, class," she said. "Good afternoon, Madame Hooch," the class responded. "Welcome to your first flying lesson. Well, what are you waiting for? Everyone step up to the left side of your broomstick," she ordered, and the students did as instructed. "Stick your right hand over the broom and say, 'Up,'" she instructed. "Up," the class repeated. Nathan's broom shoots up to his hand on his first try. Hermione stares at her best friend for a moment before she continued. Several students were still trying as their brooms barely levitate off the ground. "Up," Draco spoke, as his broom shot into his hand. He smugly grinned at Nathan, even though his smugness was completely unfounded, since it took him 4 tries to get it. "Up," Ron shouts, before his broom shoots up and crashes against his nose. He holds his nose in pain while Nathan chuckled. "Shut up, Nate," he says. A short time later, everyone had their brooms in hand. "Now I want you to mount your broom and grip it tight. You don't want to be sliding off the end," the flight instructor explained. The class does as it's told. "When I blow my whistle, I want each of you to kick off from the ground, hard. Keep your broom steady, hover for a moment, and then lean forward slightly and touch back down. On my whistle, 3-2, she said before blowing her whistle. Just as they were about to kick off, Neville immediately lifts off the ground with a scared expression on his face. Nathan and several others from the class looked in shock as the boy floated higher into sky. "Oh," Neville whimpered. "Mr. Longbottom," Hooch said with concern. "Neville, what are you doing?" Nathan said. "I'm not doing anything," Neville shouted. "We're not supposed to take off yet," the students continued to say similar things as Neville began to soar through the sky. "Ah!" the boy cries as he shot off like a bullet. "Neville!" the students shouted. "Down! Down! Ah!" he yelled as his broom smashes itself against a wall several times before flying off elsewhere. Hooch holds out her wand in attempt to stop the out-of-control broom. It was then when the broom began to charge forward at the students. Nathan grabbed Hermione and scattered with the rest of the group of students. Neville screams as he zooms through the open path that was once where the first years stood. The broom flew up and past a statue of a man holding a sharp spear. Neville's cloak got caught on it, and he was pulled off his broom and dangled high above the ground. "Help!" he pleads before his cloak tears and falls. The students panicked. Nathan could do nothing as he did not yet have a spell that could help Neville. Neville's cloak caught on a torch before he hit the ground, but he slipped out of his cloak and fell anyway. "Everyone out of the way," the flight instructor said as she rushes over to Neville's fallen self. "Come on, get up," she says as she helps Neville sit up. "Is he okay?" a girl asked with concern. As Neville sat up, he whimpered in pain, "Ow. Oh dear, it's a broken wrist. TCH, TCH, TCH. Good boy, come now, up you go," she said as helps the boy up. Malfoy stares at the boy's injury and snickered before he noticed a certain item on the ground. He reached down and picked up Neville's remembrall. Nathan, meanwhile, examined the broom. He could not tell for sure, but it seemed like the broom had been hexed. "Everyone's to keep their feet on the ground while I take Mr. Longbottom to the hospital wing, understand? If I see a single broom in the air, the one riding it will find themselves out of Hogwarts before they can say Quidditch," she threatened as she left with Neville, who was apologizing as he did not know what just happened, for the hospital wing. Draco snickered. "Did you see his face, the fat lump?" The other Slytherins joined in the cruel laughter. "Shut up, Malfoy," snapped Parvati Patil. "Ooh, sticking up for Longbottom?" said Pansy Parkinson, a hard-faced Slytherin girl. "Never thought you'd like fat little crybabies, Parvati." "Look," said Malfoy, revealing the remembrall, "it's that stupid thing Longbottom's gran sent him. Maybe if the fat lump had given this a squeeze, he'd remember to fall on his fat," he said before he was interrupted. Someone had taken a broom and slammed against Draco's. Draco fell to his knees, clutching his jaw in pain as he dropped the remembrall, only for it to be picked up in front of him. Malfoy looks up, only to see it was Nathan. "You know," Nathan said, his voice dangerously calm as he walked in front of Malfoy, causally tossing the remembrall in one hand and holding his broom in the other. "I normally have a lot more patience than this, but I just have this need to put bullies in their proper place." On the ground, begging for mercy. Malfoy reminded him of those assholes that bullied him in his youth and his first life, like Kiba and the other losers that made fun of his dream of being Hokage. "Potter!" Malfoy shouted in pain, How Dar Malfoy was again interrupted when Nathan hit him in the face with end of the broom, breaking his nose. He cried out in pain on the ground in pain as he held his bleeding nose. I shouldn't have to remind you of this. You know, considering that you lived in the wizarding world your whole life and I didn't. Anyway, the Longbottoms are an ancient and most noble house, like the Potters. Our families were there at the founding of magical Britain. The Malfoys, on the other hand, are just a noble house and have only been in Britain for 140 years. I imagine it wouldn't go down so well for your family if House Longbottom brought you before the Wisengamot with charges of stealing what equates to a family heirloom. Nathan finished his tirade and Malfoy's face turned pasty white in fear. His father would punish him greatly if he was accused of stealing a family heirloom of an ancient and most noble house. How do you even know that? You just said you didn't grow up in the wizarding world. Pansy shouted foolishly as she unconsciously tried to break into his mind. She visibly reeled back as she hit the mental wall of stone that was Nathan's shields. I read. You'd be surprised what you can find in the library. Nathan retorted simply while he looked at Malfoy. I'll be giving this back to Neville later. Don't try it again, Malfoy, Nathan said and turned around walking back the first-year group that wasn't in Slytherin, who cheered and congratulated him while Malfoy licked his wounds. Saturday. 5 a.m. Nathan was walking up on the 7th floor in the left corridor of the Hogwarts castle and has a hidden entrance opposite the tapestry depicting the attempt of Barnabas the Barmy to teach trolls ballet. He was looking for the room of requirement. Voldemort had the memory of this room where he some tiara of some kind. Nathan did not know what the tiara was, but he knew how to find the room. I really need a room where I can practice my spells, has practice dummies, and where I can't be disturbed. I really need a room where I can practice my spells, has practice dummies, and where I can't be disturbed. I really need a room where I can practice my spells, has practice dummies, and where I can't be disturbed. I really need a room where I can practice my spells, has practice dummies, and where I can't be disturbed. I really need a room where I can practice my spells, has practice dummies, and where I can't be disturbed. He thought desperately to himself. Suddenly, a wooden door with metal braces appeared. Looking to make sure nobody was following him and seeing nobody, he slipped into the door and closed it, the door disappearing behind him. Nathan entered into a room lined with glass walls, but also had numerous practice dummies of different material like wood, stone, and iron. All right, Nathan said as he took out all his shrunken spell books and returned them to their original size. He turned the page until he found the first one he wanted to practice. Defendo, Nathan said as he sent the severing charm at a wooden dummy. The charm cut a few inches into the dummy's chest, but not enough to cut it completely in half. Defendo, Nathan said as he sent the severing charm at the same dummy but aimed a few inches lower, and it cut 1/2 an inch deeper. Smirking, he continued to practice until he could cut the stone dummy completely in half with a single casting and then practiced the rest of the first-year charms until he could perfectly cast them. He stayed in the room until 11:30 so he could have lunch and study with Hermione and Ron. He certainly found the place where he would be spending his Saturday and Sunday mornings. Next Monday. With McGonagall and Wood. I'm telling ya, Professor McGonagall. House Gryffindor is in real trouble this year, Oliver Wood said. In what way, Wood? Minerva asked in her office. Nobody worthwhile wants to try out for the seeker position. We don't have one this year, Oliver said. Minerva thought for a moment. She did not want Gryffindor to be embarrassed by their Quidditch team not having a seeker. If she couldn't find one that was of age, then perhaps she would need to bend the rules a bit. With Dumbledore's permission, of course. Later that night. Professor, why are we out in the Quidditch field right now? Nathan asked as he held a broomstick. I've been told by Madame Hooch that you are a natural with a broom, yes? Minerva asked. Yeah, she said that I was better some of the 5th years on the Quidditch teams. Why? Nathan asked as they entered the Quidditch field and found both Madame Hooch and Professor Dumbledore waiting for them. Am I in trouble, Professor? Nathan asked uncertainly, concerned what the man who was holding on to his bank account key wanted. Not all, Mr. Potter, Dumbledore said with a smile. Professor McGonagall mentioned Gryffindor's Quidditch situation and I remembered old rule from 500 years ago, which lets a house Quidditch team draw from first years if one shows exceptional talent with flying when the teams are not having luck with the older years and up. It was added when 3 of the houses had trouble finding people to fill numerous positions in their team. You could say that this is your Quidditch tryout, Madame Hooch said as she opened a trunk and pulled out a small golden ball that had really thin wings. Your objective is simple. Catch this little ball, Wood said as he walked up to join the professors and took it in his hands. It zipped out of his hand and started zipping all over the place, but Nathan was able to follow it. Well, off you go, Dumbledore said, and Nathan took off on his broom after the snitch. Well, Madam Hooch, you were right. He is a natural, Minerva said as they watched him closely follow the ball. Yes, I was astonished when I saw it in our second class. His maneuvers were so natural that I thought he had flown a broom previously, Madam Hooch said. He is certainly a natural seeker. I noticed he could follow the snitch when it disappeared, Dumbledore mentioned as he watched the Potter scion closely. 5 minutes later, Nathan caught the snitch and landed near the 3 professors and Quidditch captain. I got it, Nathan said, holding the snitch in his hands. Well done, Mr. Potter. Well done, Dumbledore congratulated with a certain gleam in his eye that Nathan, even with all his accumulated experience, could not figure out. Potter, I didn't introduce you earlier. This is Oliver Wood, the Gryffindor Quidditch team captain. Wood, we have found you a seeker, she proclaims, making the older boy smile. What's a seeker? Nathan asks, since as far as they were concerned, he knew nothing about Quidditch. The next day, after classes, Nathan and Ron walked through the crowded halls as Sir Nicholas and the Grey Lady floated past them. Have you heard? Nathaniel Potter's the new Gryffindor seeker. I always knew he'd do well, Nick said as they floated around a corner. Seeker? But first years never make their house teams. You must be the youngest Quidditch player, and Ron stated, but was interrupted. A century, according to Professor McGonagall. Nathan finished for him. Fred and George walked up behind Nathan. Hey, well done, Nathan, Woods just told us, Fred stated happily. Fred and George are on the team too, their beaters, Ron said, with Nathan listening in. Our job is to make sure that you don't get bloodied up too bad. Can't make any promises, of course. Rough game, Quidditch, George said. Brutal, but no one's died in years. Someone will vanish occasionally, Fred said as him and George walk off across the courtyard. But they usually turn up in a month or two, George shouted back at Nathan. Oh, go on, Nathan. Quidditch is great, best game there is, and you'll be great too, Ron persuaded. But I've never played Quidditch, Nathan said, acting like he was nervous. He wasn't, of course. Quidditch hardly compared to facing Zabuza Momochi or a disguised Orochimaru, or a Shikaka-possessed Gara. Hermione, who was working on a bench nearby, jumped up and joined them. You won't make a fool of yourself, if that's what you're worried about. It's in your blood, she said, leading the 2 boys to a trophy case. She pointed to a plaque of players. One listed Nathan's father, James, as a seeker. Whoa, Nathan, you never told us your father was a seeker, too, Ron said in awe. I didn't know, Nathan stuttered as he looked at the moving photo of his father in his younger days. He remembered then that he did not know much about his parents in this life and resolved to start fixing that. The 3 continued walking until they made it to the grand staircase. They walked up a staircase before it shudders and begins to move. What's happening? Ron asked as he held onto the railing along with the others. The staircases change. Remember? Hermione stated as the staircase connected to another level. Let's go this way, Nathan suggested, not realizing at first that this was the 3rd floor. Before the staircase moves again, Ron said. They all opened a door to a dark room. Does anyone feel like we shouldn't be here? Nathan said in his act. That's because we're not supposed to be here. This is the 3rd floor, it's forbidden, Hermione explains with worry. Before they could leave, a flame lit itself on a stone support. They looked at the door to see the caretaker's cat, Mrs. Norris, walk in with a meow. It's Filch's cat, Ron nearly shouted. They would defiantly get expelled if they were found by the caretaker. Run! Nathan shouted, swearing to himself he would kill that damn cat and Filch someday, as the 3 wizards ran down the hall of the room. As they ran, more flames are lit. They got to the end of the corridor and stopped in front of a door. Nathan grabbed the handle and found it locked. It's locked, he said. He pulled out his wand and pointed it at the keyhole. Alohomora, he said as a small light shined through the hole and unlocking the door. Get in, he said as they rushed through. Closing the door behind them and leaning up against it, Ron turned to Nathan. Alohomora? He questioned. Standard Book of Spells, Chapter 7, Hermione explained, as she also knew the spell. On the other side of the door, Filch walked into the room. Anyone hear my sweet? He asked his cat, who only meowed at him. Filch looked around and saw no one. Come on, he said, leaving the room with his cat. The 3 wizards, who had their ears pressed up against the door, listened intently. Filch is gone, Hermione reassured. Probably thinks this door's locked, Ron said. It was locked, Hermione said. And for good reason, it seems," Nathan stated. Ron and Hermione turned to see what the black-haired Potter was looking at. In front of them was a massive three-headed dog who was sleeping. They heard a harp playing within the room before it came to a stop. As it did, the dog began to wake up. "We need to leave. Now." Nathan woke the other two from their stupor and opened the door just as the Cerberus fully awoke. Nathan closed the door after the other two were through and pointed his wand at the lock. "Colloportus," he said as the door magically locked itself as the dog began to hit it from the other side. Gryffindor Common Room. The three leaned against the wall and their knees as they tried to catch their breath upon entering the common room undetected. "What do they think they're doing? Keeping a thing like that locked up in a school," Ron stated, slightly shaken from the experience. "You didn't see it?" Nathan asked. "See what?" Ron asked. "What it was standing on," Hermione said. "I wasn't looking at its feet. I was a bit more preoccupied with its head, or maybe you didn't notice, there were three," Ron nearly shouted. "Guys, it was standing on a trapdoor," Nathan said. "Meaning it wasn't there on accident. It's guarding something," the brunette witch stated. "Guarding something?" Ron asked. "That's right. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to bed before you two come up with another clever idea to get us killed. Or worse, expelled," she snarked as she walks to her dorm and shuts the door. Although admittedly, her snarkiness was earned, as they could have been expelled if Filch had caught them. "She really needs to sort out her priorities," Ron said. Nathan turned and said to him, "Look who's talking. I need to start running and doing push-ups and sit-ups. I don't think I'll be getting my chakra back, unless they have a god tree here," he thought to himself as he went up the stairs and headed to bed. Chapter End. Charms Class. The class listened into the half-goblin/wizard's lecture, which was about the levitation charm that they were performing today in class. Nathan was not paying attention to the lesson, as he thought about his progress in the room of requirement. It had been 7 weeks since he started going to the room to master spells. By now, Nathan was pretty sure he had mastered all the first-year spells, as he could cast them fairly close to full power without using the incantation and without a wand, and he had been practicing with the second- and third-year spells for the last 3 weeks, as well as a number of lower-level combat spells. He could theoretically use all the spells in Voldemort's arsenal, but he didn't want to risk overtaxing his magical core and control trying to use an advanced spell like Fiendfire yet, so he stuck to the 1st to 7th year spells and lower-level curses and combat ones. He had also been doing his workouts every day for equally as long. This body of his did not the superhuman benefit of chakra, so he couldn't outperform Olympic athletes at his age like he could in the old days, but he was doing 1/2-mile run every day, 3 sets of 15 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats each, not to mention 5 chin-ups and 5 pull-ups. He could do this by using his magic energy to flood his body and speed up the rate his body heals by about 3 times. He had started to lose most of his baby fat he still had and put on some muscles. When he got to the age of 13 or 14, he was going to be ripped, if not look like a mini Arnold Schwarzenegger. One of the wizard's most rudimentary skills is levitation, or the ability to make objects fly. Flitwick, the charms professor, stated. Do you all have your feathers?" he asked. Most of the class raised their hands to show their feathers. "Good, now don't forget the nice wrist movement we've been practicing, The swish and flick." "Everyone," he said. The students repeated after him, "Swish and flick." "Good, and enunciate, Wingardium Leviosa." "Off you go." Then he motioned for them to start. Wingardium Leviosa, the students chanted as they tried the charm, though after a few tries, nobody had gotten it. Nathan was not really trying either. "Wingardium Leviosa," Ron said as he attempted the charm. When nothing happened, he whacked the feather a few times with his wand. Hermione seized the redhead's dilemma and stopped him from doing anything else. Stop, you're going to hurt yourself doing that or break your wand. Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosar," she explained. Ron got annoyed at her pointing out his flaws. "You do it then if you're so clever. Go on," he says in huff. A weeks ago, Hermione might have done that. Nathan had noticed her behavior and how she tried to help everybody with their stuff. She'd be a great tutor or teacher when the time came, but she had a way of coming off as a know-it-all. Nathan kinda took his best friend to the side and helped her kinda see this, and they came up with some words, tones, and behaviors she could use when helping people, so that way, she could still help her classmates when they needed it, and she wouldn't come off as a know-it-all. "Let's do this instead. I'll help you work through the spell and then we will do it together," Hermione offered, and Ron, after pondering for a moment, accepted. "Right then, let's start with the pronunciation. Repeat after me. Wingardium Leviosa. Now you give it a try." Wingardium Leviosa, Ron said, but Hermione heard the mispronunciation and corrected him. There is no second R in the first part. It goes like this: Wingardium. Try it like that. Hermione offers, and Ron, after a few fumbles, gets it right. Now for the last part of the incantation. L6OSA. There's no R in it, and you want the O and SA to be nice and long. Ron practices a little more and gets it, before Hermione has him say the whole incantation and get it right. Let's get the wand movement down, Hermione says, and Ron gets it down on his second try. Now, let's do it together. Ready? Hermione asks, and Ron nods. Hermione straightens up and swishes her wand, with Ron doing the same. Wingardium Leviosa, they say together. Both of their feathers began to levitating high into the air. Oh, well done! See here, everyone. Ms. Granger and Mr. Weasley have done it. Oh, splendid. 10 points to Gryffindor, Flitwick stated happily. Boom! Everyone turns to see Seamus with his face and robes covered in soot, his hair shot back, and his feather burnt to a crisp. I think I'm going to need another feather over here, Professor Seamus said as he coughed out smoke. Ah, screw it, Nathan said as he hopped onto the top of the desk, having already taken off his cloak and sat cross-legged on the desk, eyes closed. Mr. Potter? Professor Flitwick asked in confusion. Wingardium Leviosa, Nathan said as he cast a levitation charm on himself. Requiring both immense concentration and large magical reserves that he had, Nathan was able to lift himself off of the desk by about 5 feet. He held himself suspended in the air for nearly 10 minutes before he felt his control slipping and he lowered himself slowly back to the desk. Oh, that was splendid, Mr. Potter. 10 more points to Gryffindor for such marvelous skill, Flitwick stated happily, causing Malfoy to glare at Nathan. After class, Nathan, Hermione, Neville, Ron and Seamus are found walking through the courtyard with other students filling the area. All of a sudden they heard Malfoy's voice behind them. It's Leviosa, not Leviosar. Honestly, she's a nightmare, not to mention a mudblood. No wonder she hasn't got no friends. As Malfoy said this, Hermione heard it loud and clear. Which had been the Ponce's intention. This was still a sore spot for Hermione, even though she had Nathan and was kinda becoming friendlier with the girls in her dorm, causing her to sniffle and stomp off. Serves that mudblood right, Malfoy said as his goons agreed with him before Nathan set his stuff down and turned sharply, punching him in the face, knocking him to the ground. How dare you! She's my closest friend and she doesn't need to hear that. Especially not from you, Nathan shouted at the down blonde Ponce. Crabbe and Goyle put their stuff down and went for their wands, but Nathan cast a wordless Petrificus Totalis, freezing both of them in place. Nathan was pissed because his closest friend, Hermione, had always been made fun of in other schools for being so smart. He was pissed because it was not Hermione's fault she was smart. Malfoy was just jealous that Hermione was just smarter than him, and he was gonna make them pay. Since nothing more than crap comes out of your filthy mouth, why don't we make it more official? Eat slugs, Nathan shouted as he blasted all 3 of them with a green light, while undoing the paralysis on Crabbe and Goyle. They all got knocked to the ground and their skin started to pale, before all 3 of them puked up a slug, causing the other students nearby to retch in disgust, and step back. Malfoy was about to puke up another one when Nathan leaned down and clasped his hand over Malfoy's mouth, and preventing him from hacking it up. When hit with this curse, the body would constantly expel slugs from the stomach for at least several hours. With how much Nathan overloaded the spell, they'd probably be puking up slugs for a few days. Clasping one's hand over the mouth of someone hit by this curse was dangerous, because people hit with the curse didn't stop producing slugs to hack up until it was over. Stopping them from hacking up the slugs would cause the slugs to get caught in their throats, and they could actually die. Next time you try this, I'll do worse. Enjoy the next few days in the infirmary, Nathan said as he stood up and grabbed his stuff, the rest of the students giving him a wide berth. Outside girls' bathroom. Come on, Hermione, you know Malfoy is a jerk. Nothing he says means anything. Nathan pleaded for his friend to come out. Why should I? I'm just a know-it-all, she said between sobs. That's not true, Hermione, you know it's not, he replied. Nathan listened to the girl as she continued weeping. Mione, don't you remember what you said to me in potions class a few months ago? You're my best friend. If they don't want to be friends with you, then they're missing out. He heard Hermione's sobs get quieter. Nathan, can I just be alone for a while? She asked. Nathan sighed. Take all the time you need, he said as he walked away. Later. After classes. Nathan sighed as he walked up to his head of house's office door. He had lost 40 points for Gryffindor with his attack on Malfoy and his goons, but for him, it was worth it to make those assholes suffer. He planned to get the points back, of course, over the next few weeks. He knocked quietly, and at her acknowledgement, he opened the door and stepped inside her office. The stern woman looked in surprise at the young Gryffindor. As it was only 2 months into the year, she didn't expect to have first years seeking her out. "What can I help you with, Mr. Potter?" she asked. "I wanted to make sure that you were aware that I am not planning to attend the feast tonight," the boy replied with a solemn expression to his head of house. Minerva McGonagall raised an eyebrow at the 12-year-old student. "Are you unwell, Mr. Potter?" "The feast is mandatory for all students otherwise," she began. "I am as well as can be expected considering what day it is, Professor. However, with all due respect, an exception should be expected from me on this particular occasion," the boy returned. He paused, thinking to himself, "Please realize why this is so important to me. Please don't tell me that everyone has forgotten what happened to me and my family on this day." The stern woman was surprised and somewhat annoyed that the young boy thought that concessions would be made for him. "Mr. Potter," she growled, "you are not so special that exceptions should be." It was then that McGonagall stopped herself, when she remembered that Nathan was not any ordinary student. After all, most students didn't have their entire family murdered by a madman and then survive it. "This is about your family, isn't it?" McGonagall said. Like everyone else, she celebrated the vanquishing of the Dark Lord that All Hallows' Eve. It never occurred to her how it must appear to James and Lily's last surviving son that they were celebrating his family's deaths. "I want to spend the evening mourning for them," Nathan continued, as if she had never argued with him. "I would be grateful if you would ensure the other students and faculty don't disturb me." The Transfiguration instructor gently said, "You are excused from the feast this evening, Mr. Potter. I will make sure the prefects know not to disturb your privacy." "Thank you, Professor," the boy responded. He inclined his head in either thanks or goodbye, she wasn't sure. He slipped out of the door and quickly disappeared down the hallway, while McGonagall wondered how she could make up her insensitivity to the young boy who only wanted to honor his fallen family on this anniversary, and if everyone had forgotten the sacrifices that allowed them to have this celebration in the first place. Great Hall, 8:15 p.m. Nathan had been in the halls for the last few hours, just doing as he told McGonagall, silently mourning his family's death. He noted the time and figured he would turn in, but not before making sure Hermione was okay. The young man walked through the dark corridors of Hogwarts. The stormy weather outside wasn't helping his mood much. Nathan stopped walking when he heard a giant stomp. He hid and peeked through a doorway as he saw a large and hideous adult mountain troll walk into a room with its club being dragged along the floor. "It's going into the girls' bathroom," Nathan noted, wondering how the fucking hell a troll got in here when wards were supposed to keep those things out. Then it dawned on him, somebody let it in. Hermione's in danger. Girls' bathroom. Hermione walks out of a stall wiping her eyes as she washes her hands, and stops when she hears a grunting noise. She turns slowly to see a troll standing there. She gasps in fear and backs up into a stall. The troll raised its club and smashes through most of the stalls, missing Hermione because she ducked. "Someone help!" she cries as Nathan rushed into the bathroom. The troll smashes through the remaining stalls. "Hey, freak!" Nathan shouts as he throws a piece of wood at the troll's head, getting its attention. Hermione then rushes out of the broken stall she was in and moved under a sink. The troll sees her and raises its club to smash them. "Hermione!" Nathan calls out as he brings out his wand. "Immobilis!" said Nathan as he temporarily froze the troll still. "Incendio!" he shouts out as he's shooting a small fireball at the beast's face, breaking the freezing charm he had put on him. The beast holds its hands to its face as the small fireball makes contact with it, grunting in pain from the burns as it moved away from the sinks. Hermione runs out and into Nathan's arms. "Come on! We need to go!" Nathan yells as they rush out of the bathroom, the troll breaking through the wall, and with a roar, chases after the two wizards with its club hoisted high in the air. "It's catching up!" Hermione shouted as she ran faster. They were faster, but the beast had a much longer stride than they did. "Damn it! I was trying to avoid using one of my curses, but I need to take this thing out," Nathan yelled mentally as he aimed for the beast's face. "Ignis!" Nathan called out, using a dark curse he had created from Voldemort's knowledge that he could use with his small body. The curse hit the troll and ignited its whole body in dark flames, causing the troll to scream in pain, dropping its club in the process. "Glacius!" Nathan said as he pointed at the floor, freezing about 50 feet out from where he and Hermione were in a thick sheet of ice. The burning troll's legs were stomping down all over the place, and when one leg hit the thick sheet of ice, it slipped, causing the large troll to fall forward onto its face, the burning mass sliding towards Nathan and Hermione. Nathan pulled his wand arm back for a moment, overcharging a spell to finish the troll off, before thrusting it forward, shouting, "Diffindo!" The severing charm, overpowered as it was, spilt the sliding troll completely in half, bifurcating it, causing the two halves to slide to either side of the two. The two exchange looks as they look at the two halves. "Is it dead?" Hermione asked, having never really seen anything die like that before. "Well, I split it in half, so I would say it's dead," Nathan said as he puts away his wand and wrapped Hermione in a hug, which she returned. "When I saw the troll, I was so scared that I wasn't gonna make it in time." "I'm sorry I made you worry," Hermione sniffled into his shoulder as she hugged him, safe in the knowledge that she did have one person besides her parents that truly cared about her. They heard footsteps coming closer. They turned to see McGonagall, Dumbledore, Sprout, Flitwick, Snape, and Quirrell, and everyone but Dumbledore gasped at the sight. Oh my goodness! You explain yourselves, the both of you," McGonagall demanded. Nathan pulled away from Hermione and looked like he was about to say something when Hermione stepped in. "It's my fault, Professor McGonagall." Hermione stepped in and was about to continue, but Nathan stopped her. "No, Hermione, don't cover for Malfoy. He doesn't deserve it," Nathan said as he gave her a look before he told what really happened. Earlier today, Malfoy used some racist slurs toward Hermione that upset her, and she wasn't in class for the rest of the day. After I disciplined Malfoy and his goons, I went to check on her to make sure she was okay, but she wanted to be alone for a while, so I let her. I was going to tuck in early after I was done mourning for my family, but I went back to check up on her a little bit ago when I saw the troll. I rushed into the bathroom and saw it had smashed up the stalls, and Hermione was seconds away from being smashed by its club, so I hit it with a freezing charm and then blasted its face with a fire-making spell before we ran for it. We weren't going to outrun it thanks to its long strides, so I hit it with a stronger fire spell, before freezing the floor so it would trip on itself, and then I killed it with a severing charm. Snape seemed to scoff at the idea. Just like a Potter to make up such grand stories, Nathan noticed a large gash of Snape's leg. The professor notices Nathan's glance and covers it up while glaring at the boy. "Diffindo," Nathan said as he hit one half of the corpse, splitting it in half again, surprising the teachers, and Dumbledore looked at Nathan with interest. "What I want to know is how an adult mountain troll got in. The wards are supposed to keep such things out," Nathan said, plowing right along, like he hadn't just performed an advanced use of the spell. "Perhaps the wards have been WWW weakened," Quirrell offered. Dumbledore looked at him and Quirrell looked away, playing up his meekness to avoid Dumbledore looking into his mind. "Yes, perhaps they have been," Dumbledore said with a hand stroking his beard. "Inform the students that tomorrow's classes are cancelled in light of this breach in our security. I will give the wards a temporary fix tonight so we can rest easy. In the morning, Professors Flitwick, McGonagall, Sprout, and myself will fix any weak spots and strengthen them in the morning to prevent any more incidents like this again." Dumbledore didn't include Snape because somebody needed to watch Quirrell, and Quirrell couldn't be trusted not to weaken the wards further. "As for you, Mr. Potter," Dumbledore said, looking at Nathan with some interest. Nathan could have sworn behind that classic twinkle of his, he saw his left eye change color to brown for a moment, but perhaps it was just a trick his eyes were playing on him. 30 points to Gryffindor for risking your life to protect a fellow student, and another 40 points for eliminating a threat to lives of the students. Dumbledore waves his hand and the flames on the corpse are put out. Also, any revenue that can still be extracted from the mountain troll's corpse will be split among yourself and Miss Granger. Now off to bed with you two. The two young students walked back to their common room while the professors went about their tasks, and Quirrell snuck off so Voldemort could torture him in private, since Voldemort was certain Dumbledore was onto him. Gryffindor Common House. The two of them entered the dorm. "You're going to be okay, Hermione?" Nathan asked with concern. "I'll be all right," she reassured him. "You've had a rough day. I think it's best you get some rest. Good night, Hermione," he said as the brunette hugged him again. "Thanks for coming for me," she whispered. Nathan slowly rubbed her back. "Anytime, that's what friends are for," he smiled. Hermione smiled and nodded. She walked over to the girls' dorm, giving one last glance before entering. Nathan sighed happily and walked downstairs to his dorm, likely to be interrogated by Ron and Neville on where he had been, while absent-mindedly wondering if something was wrong with Dumbledore's eye. Chapter End. Great Hall. The gang sat at their respected house table as they ate breakfast and studied their subjects. Ron noticed Nathan twirling some eggs with his fork. "Have some toast, mate," he said, handing him over a piece of wheat toast. "Come on, Nathan. You're gonna need your strength for the game today. Hermione said as she gulped down a cup of milk. I know. There is something that keeps bugging me, though, Nathan said as he took a bite. The black-haired Potter looks around the hall, when his eyes landed on Quirrell. Nathan could not make out what bugged him about Quirrell, but when he looked at Quirrell, his scarf flared with pain. He had thought it had been Snape that caused that, but maybe it wasn't. Admittedly, the first time it happened, Snape and Quirrell had been pretty close to one another, so he might have confused which one was causing it. It didn't mean, though, that he trusted the grease ball of a potions teacher. Moments later, Snape came by. Good luck today, Potter, he snarled out before continuing. Then again, now that you've proven yourself against the troll, a wee little game of Quidditch should be easy work for you. Even if it is against Slytherin. Snape said all of this like he would take great pleasure in seeing Nathan go splat against the ground or at least, fail to win the game for his team. Snape then takes his leave, limping slightly. That explains the blood, Nathan muttered as he glared back at Snape, watching Snape walk out with a slightly limping leg. Blood? Hermione asked, looking up from her Transfiguration book. Nathan motioned them to lean in. Listen. Last night, somebody, I'm guessing Snape, let the troll in as a diversion so he could try and get past the three-headed dog. He must have been bitten and that's why he's limping. Nathan explained as he whispered into the group. He wasn't really sure who it was that was really trying to get past the Cerberus. Snape seemed like the type, being a former Death Eater, but Quirrell was just a little too much of a stutterer to have gone through what he claims to have. His senses were telling him that there is more to Quirrell than he was letting on publicly, and Nathan needed to keep his guard up around him. But why would he want to go anywhere near it? Asked Hermione. Nathan stopped to think. His memory paused when he remembered about the article he read in the Daily Prophet. That day we were at Gringotts before school started, Hagrid took something out of one of the vaults. He said it was Hogwarts business, very secret, he explained. So you're saying, Hermione said as she began to place the pieces together. Whatever that item in that vault was, that's what the dog's guarding, and that's what Snape, or whoever it was that let the troll in, wants to get his hands on. Nathan said before they were brought out of their conversation by the sound of flapping wings. The three turned to see Zeus flying towards them with something clutched in its talons. Mail's early, Ron said as the mystic bird of prey flew closer. Zeus carried the package then dropped it when he got close to Nathan. Nathan caught the package, which looked suspiciously like a broom. Zeus then flew onto his master's shoulder. Thanks, buddy, Nathan said. Nathan fed Zeus some bacon, which the undersized thunder bird was all too eager to eat up. The students at the Gryffindor table looked at Nathan and his package. What do you think it is? Hermione asked. Nathan shrugged, saying I don't know, normally I just get the monthly paper. Let's open it, Ron suggested, which they all gladly obliged. They began to unwrap it until it was viewable. It's a broomstick, Nathan observed with surprise. That's not just any broomstick, Nathan, that's the Nimbus 2000, Ron said, equally surprised. But who could be? Nathan said, wondering who was generous enough to get him it. He looked to the table and saw McGonagall look at him with a smile, in which he gave back with a nod, realizing it must have been her. Quidditch pitch. Inside Gryffindor Quidditch Tower. Nathan and his team got dressed in their team outfit, namely crimson red robe with gold outlining. Several minutes later, they began to march towards the closed starting gate. Nathan turned to look at his team. The beaters cracked their necks and hands before grabbing their brooms and bats, the chasers doing the same. Scared, Nathan? Oliver asked. The black-haired Potter turned to his captain. A little bit, he lied. Flying was nothing compared to facing down Madara, Uchiha, or Nagato, after all. That's all right, I felt the same way before my first game, he explained. What happened? Nathan asked. Oliver pondered for a bit. I don't really remember. I took a bludger to the head 2 minutes into the game, woke up in the hospital wing a week later, he explained. On your brooms, everyone, Oliver declared. His team acknowledged and got on their brooms. The gates opened and both teams flew out, circling the pitch several times as the houses cheered even louder. Hello and welcome to Hogwarts' first Quidditch game of the season. Today's game, Slytherin vs. Gryffindor, Lee declared over his microphone. The players took position in a circle, while Nathan flew a bit higher than the rest to get a better view. They looked down as Madame Hooch steps onto the field with a trunk and sets it down in between the circle of players. Now I want a nice clean game from all of you, she spoke while looking at the Slytherin team, since they were more prone to playing dirty. She then kicks the trunk open, letting the bludgers zoom out. The bludgers are up, Lee commentated as a familiar golden wing ball flies shortly afterwards, showing itself to both teams, followed by the golden snitch. Remember, the snitch is worth 150 points. The seeker who catches the snitch ends the game. The snitch then zooms out of sight. Madame Hooch then grabs the red ball and tosses it into the air. The quaffle is released and the game begins. Lee shouted, with every house cheering. Gryffindor took possession of the ball and flies past Slytherin towards their goal. The girl holding the quaffle was Angelina Johnson. She flew down and around the tower, avoiding the Slytherin chasers before throwing the ball. The Slytherin keeper rushed at the ball but failed to catch it as it scored through the hoop. Ding! Angelina Johnson scores. 10 points for Gryffindor. Lee shouts as he presses a button and adding the points to the scoreboard. Nice moves. Nathan commented from, as his entire house does the same. Well done, Hagrid said as he claps happily, though stopped when Slytherin gained possession of the quaffle. They watch as the opposing team passes the ball back and forth through team players. Bletchley passes to Captain Marcus Flint, Lee exclaimed, as Flint maneuvered around Gryffindor's chasers and throws the ball to the hoop. It however didn't score as Oliver flew up and whacked it away with his broom. Oliver smirks while Flint glares back. The positions change as Johnson and Katie Bell pass the quaffle back and forth, avoiding Slytherin as they fly in circles around the towers. This confused Slytherin's keeper as she looked in between the players for the ball. Johnson takes the ball as it's passed to her and throws it at a hoop, scoring once again. Ding! Woo! Hermione and Ron cheered. Nathan said in approval as he watched his team score while flying around the pitch trying to locate the snitch. Another 10 points for Gryffindor, Lee proclaimed, adding the points to the scoreboard. The Slytherin team sneered and decided now it was time to play dirty. Flint turns to one of the Slytherin beaters. Give me that, he said, taking the bat from the player, and bashes a bludger directly to Oliver. The ball hits Oliver in the stomach, making him yell in pain before he falls off his broom and onto the ground. Luckily, his broom broke. The majority of the crowd, not liking this, booed at Slytherin. Nathan frowned at the opposing team's actions, while also noting that Slytherin had always played dirty as long as it was within the rules. The Slytherin players laugh at the down boy as the medics take Oliver away. The Slytherin team heads off with the quaffle. They manage to maneuver over the Weasley twins and score into Gryffindor's goal, which was wide open without Oliver. The Slytherin house cheers for their team. Flint along with another chaser fly overhead. Take that side, he orders as they close in on Angelina, then box her in between them. Nathan looks and sees one of the bludgers and after calculating the trajectory, flies with his broom on a collision course with it, before flipping in midair and kicking the bludger. The bludger collided with Marcus's right shoulder, breaking it, and knocked him off his broom, freeing up Angelina, who kicked the other guy away, allowing her to score for Gryffindor. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw cheered, though they weren't too sure how they felt about the dirty trick Nathan pulled, but then again, Slytherin always did it, so it was cathartic to see them get a taste of their own medicine. Angelina gave him a thankful nod. Slytherin booed Nathan, but he could care less what those losers thought. Nathan lowered himself to a few feet above Marcus. That was a dirty trick, Marcus growled through the pain of his broken shoulder. Like you have any room to talk. You don't want to play hardball, then don't play dirty, Nathan said, surprising Marcus as he wasn't expecting cursing from one so young. Nathan then heard the snitch and turned his head to see it, before turning back to Marcus. Now, if you'll excuse me, Gryffindor has a game to win. With that, Nathan goes right onto the snitch's trail. Where's Nathan going? Hermione asked. He must have found the snitch. Go Nathan! Ron cheered. Everyone in Gryffindor, noticing Nathan, began to cheer for the boy to catch the golden ball. As the black-haired Potter reached his arm out for the ball merely millimeters from his hand, he noticed and felt a jinx trying to affect his broom and pulled back his arm, activating the enchantment he put on the broom earlier. The enchant he placed on his broom before the game takes effect and nullifies the jinx without anyone noticing, and he continues on with only Dumbledore and Quirrell really noticing. Quirrell was about to try and jinx the broom again when Voldemort spoke in his mind. Don't bother! But Master, I can get him this time, Quirrell argued back. No you won't. I've already analyzed the enchant he put on his broom. It will nullify any jinx you can utilize against it. Dumbledore is already onto you, and now the boy likely suspects you. I'd punish you for being so useless, but we are surrounded by people. Sit back and enjoy your slight reprieve. Voldemort hissed while thinking privately that Nathan was clearly more skilled than he let on. First the troll, now an enchantment on his broomstick to prevent anyone from messing with him while he is playing. The black-haired Potter sped through the air and the Slytherin Seeker was flying after him. The opposing Seeker soon catches up and rams his broom against Nathan's as they both dive towards the ground after the snitch. The opposing seeker sneers and rams his broom against Nathan's. Noticing that they were quickly approaching the ground, the Slytherin seeker backs out, leaving Nathan to go after the snitch. Nathan pulled up on his broom, being only a couple inches off the ground and with the snitch still in sight as it flew away. Nathan sped up and tried to reach but failed to as the golden ball continued to fly. The lightning-scared wizard then decided to do the unthinkable. Nathan slowly but steadily stood up on his broom and after calculating the snitch's next position, jumped forward as the snitch zigzagged a few inches to the left, catching it in his left hand though he toppled off his broom, though he rolled to his feet, skidding to a halt. He's got the snitch! Nathaniel Potter receives 150 points for catching the snitch, Lee shouted out. Hooch walks onto the field and blows on her whistle. Gryffindor wins, she declared. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw then cheered as loud as they could while Slytherin sulked in anger at their loss while the Slytherin players also looked at Nathan with wariness, as there was someone willing to put them in their place if they tried playing dirty, while the players on the other teams made notes to be more wary of playing dirty tricks if they play against Gryffindor from now on. Nathan raises the snitch into the air as they all cheered for him. With the gang, Nathan, Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid walked out of the hospital wing and onto a path leading toward Hagrid's hut. So you're saying someone tried to put a curse on your broom? Ron asked, as Nathan lied and said he had a cursebreaker put a protective enchantment on the broom to prevent any foul play. Nonsense, why would someone put a curse on Nathan's broom? Hagrid asked. Who knows, was he the same guy trying to get past that Cerberus on Halloween? Nathan asked to the group. Who told you about Fluffy? Hagrid demanded as he turned to the group, wanting answers. Fluffy? Nathan asked. That thing has a name? Ron and Hermione said in disbelief. Well, of course he's got a name. He's mine. I bought him off an Irish fella I met down at the pub last year, then I lent him to Dumbledore to guard that he was about to say but then kept his mouth shut. The what? Nathan prodded, wanting to know. Shouldn't have said that. Don't ask any more questions. That's top secret, that is, Hagrid retorted. But Hagrid, whatever Fluffy's guarding, Snape or somebody, is trying to steal it, Nathan tried to reason with Groundskeeper. Codswallop. Professor Snape is a Hogwarts teacher, he said. Hagrid sighs. Now you listen to me, all three of you. You're meddling in things that ought not to be meddled in. It's dangerous. What that dog is guarding is strictly between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel, Hagrid warned. Nicholas Flamel? Nathan said, making Hagrid's sweat drop. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I should not have said that, Hagrid said to himself as he walked away from the group. Nicholas Flamel, didn't he make the Philosopher's Stone? Nathan asked, to the smartest of the group. Surprisingly enough, she shook her head. I'm not sure, she replied. December 21st. Headmaster's office. Nathan stood in front of a griffin statue. Here goes Sherbet Lemon, he said, as stone stairs makes an appearance from behind the statue. Walking up, he finds himself in Dumbledore's office. The old man sees the Potter walking up. Is there something I can help you with, Mr. Potter? He asked generously. Yes, Professor Dumbledore, sir, I need to head to Diagon Alley for a bit, so I'm asking permission if I could take my broom and head over there, he asked, and Dumbledore chuckled at the request. I can't allow a first year to ride a broomstick off school grounds. It would be very irresponsible of me, he said. But tell me, what is it you require at Diagon Alley? He asked. Well, you see, there's this girl, a friend that I want to get a gift for, Nathan said. Dumbledore smiled, already knowing what it was he was asking. Come with me, Mr. Potter, he said. The black-haired Potter nodded and followed the headmaster upstairs. Wait here for a moment, he said as he searched into a chest. Nathan looked around the room, full of books, paintings, and paperwork. He then turned to see a majestic bright red-colored bird, his memories from Voldemort telling him it was Dumbledore's phoenix that bonded with him during the Wizarding World War. Here we are, Nathan turned to Dumbledore as he handed over a small pouch before he motioned to the fireplace. Now over here. You see, inside that pouch is what's known as flip powder. What you do is walk into the fireplace, take a healthy handful of powder, state very clearly the destination you wish to travel, then drop the powder into the fireplace, the elder wizard explained. Nathan bowed down to the headmaster. Thank you, Professor Dumbledore, he said as he walked into the fireplace. He grabbed a handful of the powder and stated loud and clear, Diagon Alley, before dropping the powder and disappearing in green flames. Dumbledore smiled as the boy disappeared. Hermione Granger would surely be very happy during the upcoming holiday. With the gang. Later, Hermione walked into the Great Hall with a cart. She saw the ghosts singing carols, Christmas trees and decorations being put up throughout the hall, and students either leaving the hall or continuing with their schoolwork. She walks over to Ron and Nathan as they play chess. Knight to e5, Nathan states, as his knight piece moves towards its destination. Ron cups his chin, thinking about his move, before responding, queen to e5. Ron's queen then moves into position and clinks the knight away with its chair. Hermione, who was watching, sighs. That's totally barbaric, she says. That's wizard's chess, Ron replies and notices her cart. I see you've packed. See you haven't, Hermione said with a raised eyebrow. Change of plans, my parents decided to go to Romania to visit my brother Charlie. He's studying dragons there, Ron explained his situation. Good, you can help Nathan. He's going to the library for information on Nicholas Flamel, the brunette said. We've looked 100 times, Ron complained. Not in the restricted section. Merry Christmas, she said before turning back and walking OU.T. Hermione, wait, said girl, turned to see Nathan get up from his seat. I got you a little something. He brought out a large present, white and black stripped. Hermione took the present and smiled before giving the black-haired Potter a tight hug. I'll see you in January, Nathan, the brunette said as she left to make her way to the train. Merry Christmas, Hermione, he said while waving goodbye. Merry Christmas, she waved back. Christmas Day. Gryffindor common room. Nathan rubs his eyes as he wakes up from his slumber. Zeus gives out a screech as it looks at his master. Nathan yawns and walks out of the room. From the balcony, he overlooked the decorated common room. Ron was standing next to the tree wearing a sweater with an R on it. Merry Christmas, Ron, Nathan said. Merry Christmas, Nathan, he replied. Ron, what are you wearing? Nathan asked, as he had never seen an ugly sweater before. Oh, Mum made it for me. Looks like you got one too, he said. I've got presents? Nathan asked, surprised. He had never gotten presents in the orphanage or during his first life as Naruto Uzumaki. Yeah, come on down, Ron said. Nathan walked downstairs and up to the tree. Nathan picks up a silver-wrapped present with a note attached. Who's it from? Ron asked. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well, huh? Doesn't say. Nathan replied, a bit confused before he unwrapped his present. What is it? Ron asked. Some kind of cloak, Nathan responds, holding a black cloak with several star and moon-like patterns. He put it on, clasping it around his neck like a proper cloak, before his entire body minus his head disappeared. Oh, I know what that is. That's an invisibility cloak. They're really rare. Wonder who gave it to you? Ron asked. Well, I know one thing. Getting into the restricted section just got a lot easier. Nathan explains, since this would be better than trying to use the disillusionment charm that he hadn't mastered yet. Library. 8 p.m. Walking through the dark sections of the library, Nathan went into the restricted section, his wand sticking out of the cloak with Lumos activated. He made it to the forbidden section and pulled the hood of his cloak down, revealing his head as he searched the bookcases. He didn't really need to find info about Flamel, thanks to Voldemort's memories. He was here for other things that could be of use to him. Famous fire eaters. Nope, Nathan said, taking a book before he put it back. 15th century fiends. Double nope, Nathan spoke as he looked between books. GG? Nathan said as he found a thick late 19th century style journal. Knowing what name those initials might stand for, he cast a spell to detect any curses or harmful enchantments. Finding none, he opened the book to find high-quality notes and very detailed descriptions of numerous potions, rituals, and dark spells that were definitely not in Voldemort's memory. I'm definitely keeping this, Nathan said as he shrunk the book with Reductio and pocketed the treasure trove of information. Let's see, what other goodies can we find? Nathan said as he took book another and opened it. The moment he did, a face shot out of a page. Ah! Nathan slammed the book shut and put it back. Who's there? Nathan whipped around to see a lantern's light approaching. He threw his hood back on and extinguished his lumos with Nox. Who is it? Show yourself, Filch shouted as he came into the restricted section. He walked over to where Nathan had been and examined that a book was missing. Filch scratched his head in confusion before he found fresh footprints, caused by Nathan disturbing the layer of dust on floor. With Nathan. Nathan silently moved across the hall and turned a corner to see Snape push Quirrell against a wall. Nathan moved slowly to sneak past them. As he crept closer, he eavesdropped on their conversation. Severus, I thought, Quirrell stated quietly. You don't want me as your enemy, Quirrell, Snape threatened. What do you mean? Quirrell said. You know perfectly well what I mean, Snape said before stopping and turning around. Nathan holds his breath as the professor had somehow detected him. Snape slowly reached out towards Nathan, who backs away slowly and silently, before he whips his finger back at Quirrell. We'll meet again soon when you've had time to decide where your loyalties lie, he said before turning around to see Filch. Oh, professors. I found a book missing from the restricted section and fresh footprints. That means a student is out of bed, he explained. Snape let go of Quirrell and followed Filch with Quirrell trailing behind. Nathan took this opportunity to enter a door and sneak right past them. Nathan sighs as he finds the room empty. The only noticeable thing was the large mirror in the corner. The black-haired Potter removes his cloak and stares into the mirror. He gasps as a man and a woman appeared in the mirror's reflection. Mum? He asks. The woman smiles and nods. Nathan turns to the man. Dad? Receiving the same response. Nathan reaches out to touch them only to feel the cold surface of the mirror. He sees Lily place a hand on the shoulder of Nathan's reflection. Then he saw his twin brother, Harry, still a baby. As young as he had been when Voldemort killed him in cold blood with the killing curse. Not only that, but the image of his first parents, Kushina and Minato, appeared behind them. The black-haired Potter then places a hand on his shoulder, trying to feel his mother's touch. The image then shifted to one of him, older now, by like 20 years. Surrounding him were numerous children, all of them bearing some resemblance to him. He had a number of women standing at his side. He didn't recognize any of them, save for the woman at his older self's right side, who was obviously Hermione. Great Hall. The next day, Ron and Nathan sat in their house's table. Nathan was studying astronomy, while Ron attempted to brew a shrinking solution potion. Nathan had got Ron a book to help him with potions, essentially a dummy's guide, since Snape was pretty unhelpful during class. Don't forget to add the leech juice, Nathan said, not taking his eyes off his book. Right, Ron replies. They heard a flapping sound and turned to see Zeus flying towards them with a small parcel. Wonder what Zeus brought you this time, Ron asked himself, Nathan wondering the same thing. The Thunderbird dropped the package in his master's hands before landing on his shoulder. Nathan fed his pet a small chunk of meat before looking at his package. Who's it from? Ron asked. Nathan smiled. From Hermione, he said, opening the parcel, revealing it to be a black wand holster. He saw a note attached to it and read the contents. Hey Nathan. This is Hermione. I'm not sure if this parcel got to you on time, but this is my Christmas present to you. I know you like to practice spells, so with this you'll be able to draw your wand faster. I also wanted to thank you for the other 6 volumes of Standard Book of Spells that you got me. Merry Christmas, Hermione, he read with a smile. Nathan just looked at the holder before he wrapped the leather strips around his arm like a bracer. He brought out his wand and sheathed it into his new holder. Mirror room. 8 p.m. Nathan sat in front of the mirror looking at his dead family from both lives with a sad smile. He heard footsteps and turns around to see Dumbledore. Back again, Nathan? He asks as the black-haired Potter stood up and dusted himself. I see you, like so many before you, have discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erised. I trust by now you also realize what it does, he asked, before noticing Nathan's solemn look. He chuckled. In case you don't, let me offer a clue. The happiest man on earth would look into the mirror and see only himself, exactly as he is, he said. The mirror shows us our heart's deepest desires? Nathan asked. Yes, it shows us nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desires of our hearts. Now you, who tragically lost your family at a young age, you see them standing beside you. But remember this, Nathan, this mirror gives us neither knowledge nor truth. Many men have wasted their lives away in front of this mirror, even gone mad, he said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. He didn't need to be a legilimens to know that was the most likely thing he saw in the mirror. It does not do to dwell on dreams, Nathan, and forget to live, he finishes, as Nathan looks back into the mirror. What do you see, Professor, when you look in the mirror? Nathan asked. Dumbledore looked into the mirror, and saw a younger version of Dumbledore and Grindelwald when they formed their blood pact, Aurelia's death, Leta Lestrange's death, the manipulations and tragic end of the obscurial known as Credence Barebone, and so many other failings that it was hard to pinpoint the greatest, but the first scene stuck out the most. My greatest failures. I see my many failures and how I wished I could have prevented them," Dumbledore admitted, and once again, Nathan thought he saw one on his eyes change color for a moment. 1 month later. Hagrid's hut. The three wizards ran towards the hut as they avoided Filch. Hermione had come back to school to find out she had actually checked out the book that contained information on Nicholas Flamel. The three then decided to visit Hagrid to glean some more info out of him. Nathan knocks on the door several times before Hagrid opens, who is wearing an apron and oven mitts. Hagrid looks at the three. "Oh, hello. Sorry, don't wish to be rude, but I'm in no fit state to entertain today," the half-giant said before closing the door on them. "We know about the Philosopher's Stone," they all stated. Hagrid reopened the door. "Oh," he said before letting them all in. "We think Snape or somebody is trying to steal it," Nathan began. Hagrid just looked at the black-haired Potter in disappointment. "Snape? Blimey 8, you're not still on about that, are you?" he asked. "Hagrid, we know it's the stone, we just don't know why," Nathan stated. Hagrid shook his head. "Snape is one of the teachers protecting the stone, he's not about to steal it," he explained, receiving a surprised look from the three. "Wait a minute, one of the teachers?" Ron asked. Hermione sat down in one of Hagrid's chairs. "Of course. There are other things defending the stone, aren't there? Spells? Enchantments?" Hermione asked, receiving a nod from the half-giant. "That's right, waste of bloody time trying to steal the thing, if you ask me," the half-giant replied. "Ain't no one gonna get past Fluffy. Hee, not a soul knows how, except for me and Dumbledore." He pauses as the three look at him. "Shouldn't have told you that, I shouldn't have told you that." It was at that point that the cauldron that was being heated over the fireplace began to rattle. Hagrid gasped and rushed over, took the cauldron out, then a rather large egg from inside. "Ooh. Ooh. 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 Hot," he said. Seemed like the mitts didn't seem to help much. He places it gently on a table for all to see. Hagrid, is that what I think it is?" Nathan asked as he and the rest edged closer to the table. "That? It's Hagrid said, trying to make something up, when Ron recognizes it. "I know what it is. But Hagrid, how did you get one?" Ron asked. Hagrid sighed. "No point in keeping it a secret. I won it off a stranger I met down recently at the pub. Seemed quite glad to get rid of it, as a matter of fact," he recalls. The egg begins to rattle once more before the shell cracked. The pieces start to fly off as it reveals itself to be a dragon hatchling, which squeaks as it slips off an egg piece. "Is that a dragon?" Hermione asked in surprise. "Not just any dragon. That's a Norwegian ridgeback. My brother Charlie works with these in Romania," Ron explains. Hagrid wipes a tear from his eye. "Isn't he beautiful? Oh, bless him, look, he knows his mummy. Hee, hello Norbert," the dragon squeaks as it stares at Hagrid. The three turn to Hagrid. "Norbert?" "Yeah, well, he's got to have a name, doesn't he?" Hagrid responds. The group laughs. Nathan, meanwhile, is thinking about Voldemort's memories. Hagrid seems to have a penchant for keeping rare and dangerous magical creatures around. That acromantula was only the best example. If only Voldemort's aim had been a little better and he had actually killed the damn thing when he had the chance. That acromantula had escaped and nested in the dark forest before it started breeding. Now there were hundreds of acromantulas running around in the dark forest. Voldemort's memories showed stark contrast of the forest that Nathan knew. The forest had once been a paradise for light-sided magical creatures, like phoenixes, unicorns, fairies, etc. And biannual hunts used to be organized to get rid of any dark creatures that tried to break into the forest. Now the fairy populations are down to a record low, having been fed upon until they're nearly extinct by the growing acromantula menace in there. Werewolves and other dark things infest the place. The unicorns are dying off. Everyone now just accepts the place as a festering pit of darkness and evil. And why? Because Dumbledore allowed it to be that way. He let people seed it with the worst sort of dark creatures imaginable, then did nothing to remove them, out of laziness or something else. Nathan had no idea. The very worst of headmasters before him had never sunk so low. That forest was one of the few places in the world where unicorns still roamed free, and now over half their population was eaten. Gone to feed the hunger of creatures like those acromantulas who'll be moving on to human babies in the surrounding area the moment they've exhausted the forest. It was beginning to look like the only way he was gonna save any of the light-side magical life left was to move them out, and then burn down the whole forest to make sure none of the evil escaped. Nathan knew just the spell to accomplish this, but he wasn't ready to cast that spell yet. "Don't you, Norbert?" Hagrid says as he raises a finger back and forth across the dragon's chin. The hatchling backs away slightly before it hiccups a fireball into Hagrid's beard. The half-giant uses the oven mitt to put it out the flames. Well, he'll have to be trained up a bit, of course, he said as he manages to douse the flame. That is until he sees someone by the window. Who's that? He said, making the three whip their line of sight to the window. The person jumps and starts running away. Malfoy, Nathan growls as he jumps out of his seat. Opening the door to Hagrid's hut, he sees Malfoy only a few yards away and casts a wordless Incarcerus. Thick ropes wrap around Malfoy's legs, before binding his arms and chest as well. Potter! Unhand me at once! My father will hear about this! Malfoy screams at the approaching Nathan, Ron, and Hermione with Hagrid wobbling behind. What's wrong, Malfoy? Were you perhaps hoping to get us in trouble, Perhaps make us lose that 220-point lead that Gryffindor currently has over your house? Nathan asks as Malfoy looks to scream again. Don't answer that. Silencio. Nathan's charm hits Malfoy and renders him temporarily mute. Hey Ron, help me drag him back inside. Nathan said as while they could levitate him in, he didn't want to be discovered. Ron helped him drag him inside and Nathan threw him onto a chair. Ron covered the windows so no one could see what they were doing. Well, what are we gonna do with you, I wonder? Nathan asks Malfoy out loud. Well, we can't just let him go. He'll rat us out to Snape and then we will lose all of Gryffindor's points, Ron says, as he didn't want to be a social outcast. We could take his memories away, Hermione offered hesitantly, causing the others to look at her. Oh dear, Hagrid states as he sits down next to his pet dragon, not liking where this was going. You know the memory charm, Hermione? Nathan asked with some surprise. I've been doing some light reading of my Christmas present, and started practicing with it a week ago. I could take away the memory of what he saw, Hermione offered hesitantly. But even saying that, we'd be breaking about a dozen school rules. Not to mention, it'd be a crime. I'm curious, Hermione, have you spoken with any of the older students? Nathan asked, and Hermione shook her head. Well, I have, and in the last 10 years, the competition for the House Cup has become a joke. Slytherin wins every time, while the other houses have most of their points docked for stupid things. Ravenclaw doesn't get docked nearly as much, but they still feel some of the effects. Now, do you know who got hired as head of Slytherin House 10 years ago? Ron didn't have an answer, but Hermione did. Professor Snape. Nathan nodded and continued, Snape is a foul bigot and former Death Eater. He takes away points from students not of Slytherin House for stupid reasons, while not punishing Slytherin students for endangering students and actually rewarding them for things like simply arriving on time. I've asked around the older students about Snape's records, and he is the worst teacher the school has ever had, bar none, getting fewer graduates for potions with lower grades than ever before. Snape commits weekly offenses that would get any other teacher not only fired, but blacklisted from ever teaching again. Entire schools in the non-magic world have been closed over lesser offenses. I can show you some examples on them when we get back to Gryffindor Tower. Hermione looked sickly hearing this, and got what Nathan was saying. The whole of Slytherin House was basically a joke. You couldn't really go in there without being accused of dark wizard, and if you were a muggle born in its current incarnation, you were fucked. So I'm not gonna let Snape and the joke that is Slytherin House have their way this time. First, I need to see how much memory we need to remove. This can't be a rush job, otherwise someone will catch on. Nathan said as he pointed his wand at Malfoy's head and muttered, Legilimens. Nathan looked through Draco's mind to see where they needed to remove memories. Okay, remove everything from the past hour from him, Hermione. Nathan said as he stepped away, and Hermione, after a little more encouragement from Nathan, obliviated Draco, erasing everything he saw from the last hour. While she did this, Nathan realized he would need to come back later and wipe and alter Hagrid's memory of this as well. He didn't want to, but he knew Hagrid talked too much and couldn't keep a secret to save his life. Okay, now what? Ron asked. Now, I implant false memories into his head. Falsificar, Nathan said as he implanted false memories into Draco's head, before knocking out the dazed boy with a punch to the face. The three split off, with Hermione and Ron sneaking back to their room unnoticed while Nathan went to the Great Hall to make Draco the subject of a prank, knocking out Theodore not of Slytherin House, who he ran into on the way, which made him the perfect scapegoat. Great Hall. Draco and Nott could be found the next morning, hanging from the ceiling with nothing on save for a pair of underwear. Both were shouting at each other and accusing the other of doing this to them, while the other students laughed at the two, and even the Slytherin first years couldn't help but laugh at the two for looking so ridiculous. Even poor Pansy, who was to betrothed to Malfoy when they were of age, laughed at Draco, while a tiny seed was planted in her head that maybe she should consider other options for a husband. Nathan had also gone back in the morning and replaced Hagrid's memory of the event the previous night to cover his tracks, though he noted Dumbledore had already shipped little Norbert off to Romania. 2 months later. Nathan was walking late at night to the girls' bathroom, but not in the way you might think. It was time to open a certain chamber. But he needed to make it look convincing, like he was just exploring more of the castle and had just stumbled upon it. As he walked into the bathroom, he saw the ghost of Moaning Myrtle. "Oh, it's you," she said when she saw Nathan. "What do you want?" "I have asked around and noticed that many of the ghosts here are at least several hundred years old, yet you appear to be one of the younger ghosts, if not the youngest. I was curious as to how you died," said Nathan. Myrtle's whole aspect changed at once. She looked as though she had never been asked such a flattering question. "Oh, it was dreadful," she said with relish as she pointed at the stall. "It happened right in here. I died in this very stall. I remember it so well. I'd hidden because Olive Hornby was teasing me about my glasses. The door was locked, and I was crying, and then I heard somebody come in. They said something funny. A different language, I think it must have been. Anyway, what really got me was that it was a boy speaking. So I unlocked the door, to tell him to go and use his own toilet, and then," Myrtle swelled importantly, her face shining, "I died." "Can you tell me how?" said Nathan. "No idea," said Myrtle in hushed tones. "I just remember seeing a pair of great, big yellow eyes. My whole body sort of seized up, and then I was floating away." She looked dreamily at Nathan. "And then I came back again. I was determined to haunt Olive Hornby, you see. Oh, she was sorry she'd ever laughed at my glasses." "Where exactly did you see the eyes?" said Nathan. "Somewhere over there," said Myrtle, pointing vaguely toward the sink in front of her toilet. Nathan then walked over to it. It appeared as an ordinary sink to the naked eye. They examined every inch of it, inside and out, including the pipes below. And then Nathan saw it. Scratched on the side of one of the copper taps was a tiny snake. His memories from Voldemort surfaced, and he realized this was indeed it. "That tap's never worked," said Myrtle brightly as he tried to turn it. "Open up," he said in Parseltongue. At once the tap glowed with a brilliant white light and began to spin. Next second, the sink began to move. The sink, in fact, sank right out of sight, leaving a large pipe exposed, a pipe wide enough for a man to slide into. Stairs," Nathan said in Parseltongue, and a flight of stairs appeared around the sink. Much more dignified and likely the method Voldemort used when he first came down. The stairs descended until they came in front of a snake-themed gate, which again, Nathan used Parseltongue to open. He was standing at the end of a very long, dimly lit chamber. Towering stone pillars entwined with more carved serpents rose to support a ceiling lost in darkness, casting long, black shadows through the odd, greenish gloom that filled the place. He pulled out his wand for safety and moved forward between the serpentine columns. Every careful footstep echoed loudly off the shadowy walls. He kept his eyes narrowed, ready to clamp them shut at the smallest sign of movement. The hollow eye sockets of the stone snakes seemed to be following him. More than once, with a jolt of the stomach, he thought he saw one stir. Then, as he drew level with the last pair of pillars, a statue high as the chamber itself loomed into view, standing against the back wall. It was ancient and monkey-like, with a long, thin beard that fell almost to the bottom of the wizard's sweeping stone robes, where 2 enormous gray feet stood on the smooth chamber floor. It was the place where the basilisk came out. "Now or never," Nathan said as he spoke in Parseltongue. "Speak to me, Salazar, greatest of the 4. The mouth opened up, and when he saw the hint of the basilisk, he closed his eyes. He heard the snake approach, and the shadow in front of him told him the snake was right in front of him. "Stop! Don't come any closer," Nathan said. "Now what is this?" A loud voice in Parseltongue boomed from all around him. "It's been a long time since a speaker appeared before me. I know you are a basilisk. I'm not about to open my eyes when a single glimpse of your gaze will kill me," Nathan said, and he heard something flick. "There, I've covered my eyes so we can converse properly," the basilisk said, and Nathan slowly opened his eyes, seeing the reflection of its yellow gaze in a puddle. Seeing as he wasn't petrified yet, he looked directly at the great beast. It was a massive 60-foot basilisk. Its whole body was taller than a fully grown adult. "You're not what I was expecting," Nathan said to the basilisk's intrigue. "What were you expecting, speaker?" the basilisk said. "Certainly not a conversation with you. Voldemort did use you to terrorize the school 50 years ago. I wasn't sure what to expect," Nathan said carefully, though it still upset the basilisk. Nathan knew quite a bit about Voldemort, including all his magic knowledge and most of his life, though certain memories were not viewable. Like everything concerning the basilisk, or several events in Tom's life, or the Potter family's death. He didn't understand how they were all connected or why he couldn't view them. Don't remind me. I was created by Master Salazar to be the protector of this school. But Voldemort corrupted my mission here. He used me for his own twisted ends. The basilisk hissed in frustration. Nathan wanted to know more, so he requested. What really happened back then? He came to me in a similar manner to you, Speaker. Though I was created to protect the school, I am bound by magic to obey Master Salazar's recognized heir. You clearly know what the basics of what happened. He used me to kill a student, and then sealed me back up in here. 10 years ago, my connection to him was suddenly cut off. The basilisk took a closer look at Nathan. Tell me, Speaker, what is your connection to my master's previous heir? I feel a budding connection to you, but not the same as it was with him. So, Nathan told him everything, about how Voldemort had tried and failed to kill him as a baby, and how Nathan could speak to snakes, and just about everything he knew Voldemort related. I see, so that's why I feel a connection with you. Speaker, until you defeat my master's previous heir in combat, the Slytherin House Magics will not recognize you as the rightful heir to Salazar's Slytherin through right of conquest. Until that happens, I cannot allow you to view my master's Chamber of Secrets. The basilisk said. Well, that is too bad, though it went much better than I expected. At least I was able to avoid a confrontation. Nathan said, as Voldemort had apparently never utilized the knowledge in the chamber, since Albus caught onto him after Myrtle's death before he could learn anything, and Nathan was hoping he could gain it for himself, but he needed to overcome Voldemort first. Before I go, Great Basilisk, what is your name? Master Salazar named me Unizeth. The now named Unizeth said as Nathan made his way back to the surface to prepare for a confrontation with whoever was trying to take the stone. Chapter end. What if Naruto Grindelwald and Harry Potter end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.